Chapter 46-34. Humph. While Xiao Hua was speaking, another cultivator wearing a black Daoist robe coldly snorted and said, Daoist Master Zhao's cultivation is profound. Aside from the Grand Mist Ancestor, this Daoist is half a person that I admire the most. However, Daoist Xiao. Hee, now that he's the lightning master of the Immortal Palace, I don't even admire him anymore. Then, the cultivator said to the Grand Mist Ancestor, Sect Master, I don't have any objections if you want to cooperate with any of our Daoism's cultivators. However, if you want to cooperate with those Daoist sects, I'll be the first to object. The Grand Mist Ancestor frowned and scolded, Dark Knight, Daoist Xiao is our Daoism's Grand Ascension Stage Daoism. His fortune gate defeated the four great families. How could he be? There are many people in this world who would forsake their principles for beauty. The cultivator called Dark Knight replied bluntly, who knows what Daoist Xiao would do for the North Star's 9th princess? Dark Knight of the incinerating glass pond? Third on the profound yellow list. When Xiao Hua heard the Grand Mist Ancestor's words, he understood the origin of this cultivator. Looking at Anya, Xiao Hua understood that the Grand Mist Ancestor and the others had already discussed these words beforehand. However, when Xiao Hua looked around, he didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In front of the Confucian cultivators, the Buddhist sect, and the demon race, the most unpromising Dao sect, and the sky-bearing palace, which had just been established, actually dared to boast shamelessly. Amitabha. At this moment, the Dipankara archaic Buddha spoke with a bitter expression on his face, Amitabha. Amitabha, you have been cultivating peacefully in the Pure Land World's incineration glass pond for so many years. Our Buddhism sect has never disturbed you. Isn't it good for you to cultivate in peace? Why? Dipankara. Dark Knight said coldly, I have been cultivating in the incinerating glass pond for so many years. Indeed, I've been doing much better than those Daoism cultivators in the hidden immortal continent. However, I can't say that I've been peacefully. From time to time, the heavenly guardian of the Thunder Sound Temple would come to check on I to see if I was quiet. Whenever I was not at the burning glass pond, he would immediately warn me to cultivate in the burning glass pond, quietly. Even if the guardian heavenly king of the Thunder Sound Temple did not come, the monks from the nearby temples would still come to visit. Whether it was spiritual wine or spiritual pills, would have to serve them well. I was a Daoist cultivator of the 8th grade of essence force. Even when facing a monk who had formed his nascent soul, I still had to put on a smiling face. How can I cultivate in peace? Amitabha. Excellent, excellent. The Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord chanted Buddha's name. He looked at the river tide temple and saw Chunjing holding his monk's staff. He steadied himself and stepped into the temple, saying, I hope the Buddhist light of the sutra praying nirvana can illuminate benefactor's heart and let benefactor see the true compassion of my Buddhism towards the world. I have no interest in Buddhism's compassion. Dark Knight snorted and said, my sect master is the true prodigy who is well versed in both the past and the present. Not to mention that no Daoist cultivator can compare to him, even among Confucian cultivators, it would be hard to find a match for him. Therefore, I feel that my sect master is the best candidate to lead all Daoism under the heavens. Only his great talent and bold vision could truly bring the Daoist sect to glory. Not those who are secretly colluding with Confucian cultivators. In the end, Dark Knight's words were all directed at Xiao Hua. Hearing this, Xiao Hua sneered, anger rising in his chest. However, today was the day of Chunjing's accomplishment. Xiao Hua couldn't disturb him casually. Moreover, in front of the Immortal Palace, Buddhism, and Great Sage Hall, how could Xiao Hua let them laugh at Daoism's internal strife? Looking at the Grand Mist Ancestor's smiling face, Xiao Hua didn't understand what he meant. After all, they hadn't talked about cooperation yet. There wasn't a need to be so hostile, right? However, all of a sudden, Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat as if he had thought of something. He sighed inwardly, sigh. This Grand Mist Ancestor is too scheming. In order to make this Xiao not suspect the Xiao Empire, he's actually bluffing here, making this Xiao Hua worry that he'll force me to focus my attention here while he secretly makes a move there. How could he know that this Xiao Hua has long known that Prince Lan? Ignorant child, immortal Emperor Gochen didn't mind the small matter and said coldly, "What do you know? How can someone who can be called Thunder Master by my immortal palace be an ordinary cultivator? That grand mist brat is only a clown suppressed in the Yin Yang Illustrated Handbook. How can he be compared to Thunder Master Shao?" Amitabha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord said, "Grand Mist Ancestor, are you here to observe the Longevity Town's ceremony? If so, my Thunder Sound Temple welcomes you. If not, my Thunder Sound Temple doesn't welcome you, please leave." "No." The Grand Mist Ancestor smiled, "I'm not here to observe the Longevity Town's ceremony." "Then please leave." The Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord said calmly, "Otherwise, I won't hold back anymore. I'm here to observe the hidden immortal continent's first golden body Buddha statue's consecration." The Grand Mist Ancestor wasn't nervous at all. Instead, he replied word by word. In an instant, the joyous atmosphere became tense. No matter if it was the Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord or the immortal Emperor Gochen, both of them had an awkward expression on their faces. Although the Sutra Seeking of Nirvana was a joint venture between the Immortal Palace and the Thunder Sound Temple, Chuanzang could preach and preach in the hidden immortal continent, and Jinhan could preach and preach Confucianism in the pure paradise world. Today's Sutra Seeking of Nirvana was a joint event between the Immortal Palace and the Thunder Sound Temple. However, the biggest winner of the Sutra Seeking of Nirvana was the Thunder Sound Temple. After the Sutra Seeking of Nirvana was completed, the hidden immortal continent's first golden body Buddha statue could be consecrated and receive the worship of thousands of kind-hearted men and women. The Thunder Sound Temple could also preach Mahayana Buddhist scriptures in the hidden immortal continent. If the Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord didn't mention this matter, the immortal Emperor Gochen wouldn't mention it as well. If the Grand Mist Ancestor didn't mention it, everyone would just consecrate the Nanwu Great Merciful Buddha World Sound Bodhisattva's golden body without a single word. Now that the Grand Mist Ancestor had spoken, he had exposed the scar that no one wanted to talk about. Moreover, he had even sowed discord between the seemingly harmonious Confucianism and Buddhism. Fortunately, at this moment, chants of Namo Maitreya Buddha, Namo Amitabha Buddha, Namo Dipankara Archaic Buddha. Amidst the chants of Buddhist mantras, heavenly flowers sprinkled down from the night sky, and countless heavenly maidens flew out gracefully amidst the starlight. Rings of dazzling Buddhist radiances resembled the rising sun, sprinkling all around the Longevity Town. This phenomenon instantly attracted everyone's attention. Chunzong stepped into the River Tide Temple, and lotuses bloomed with every step he took. When he entered the Great Strength Hall and arrived before the Buddhist shrine, the radiance reached its peak, and the entire Great Strength Hall disappeared. It was as if the entire sky was filled with Buddhist radiances and lotuses. All of the Buddhist radiances and lotuses condensed into a Buddha's golden body. Pious and kind faces of men and women were revealed within the Buddhist radiances, and everyone was chanting, Amitabha Buddha. Chunzang's expression was unusually calm, and he didn't show any signs of agitation. His eyes were filled with Sanskrit words. Strangely, although his gaze landed on the Buddhist shrine, it seemed like he was looking at the Buddha's golden body. In such a strange situation, the unruly Jinkong and the unruly Jianxia were also very careful. They didn't dare to step into the Great Strength Hall, and only stood outside the hall, carefully watching. Chunzong respectfully walked to the front of the Buddhist shrine, and carefully took out the Buddhist decree from his chest. He gently flicked the old yellow decree that didn't have any dust on it, and then knelt in front of the Buddhist shrine. He kowtowed 9 times and chanted, Amitabha Buddha, disciple Chunzong was fortunate enough to not disappoint you. After 300 years, disciple returned and brought the Thunder Temple's Mahayana Sanzang to the hidden immortal continent. Today, disciple will present the Buddhist decree to Buddha. Chunzong respectfully presented the Buddhist decree, but before it could be sent into the shrine, boom. Another blazing sun appeared between the eyebrows of the previous Buddha statue. The Buddhist light from the blazing sun fell on the Buddhist decree, and the Buddhist decree turned into millions of small worlds. These small worlds were like a tide, and they hovered above Chunzong, Jinkong, Jinjie, Jinfeng, and Zhenhan. A vast voice filled with mercy sounded in everyone's ears. Chunzong has completed the Sutra of Bliss, and has benefited the good people of the hidden immortal continent. He is bestowed with millions of merits, and has become the Xuanji meritorious Buddha. As the voice fell, more than half of the small worlds flowed towards Chunzong like a river. Whoosh! With a soft sound, a ray of light appeared behind Chunzang's head, and the Buddhist light swept the small worlds into it. In an instant, the Buddhist light shone brightly again, and the Sanskrit chant sounded again. Although Jinkong is a demon, he wholeheartedly protected Chunzang's Sutra of Bliss, and along the way, he eliminated demons and subdued demons, and has made great contributions. He is bestowed with millions of merits, and has become the vanquishing demon Buddha. Similarly, the Buddhist light swept the remaining half of the small worlds into the back of Jinkong's head, and the same ray of light appeared, and the Sanskrit chant sounded again. Oh! Seeing this, Xiaohua was overjoyed, and he almost clapped his hands and praised in his heart, "The Mahavairakana revered Buddha is fair." Yuan Tongtian was the first to escort Jianghu, and he contributed the most along the way. In my opinion, the Mahavairakana revered Buddha gave him the title of Arhat, but who would have thought that he would actually give him a Buddhist position? How rare! Immediately after, the Buddhist decree came again, and Zhenjia became the heaven-vigilant Arhat Buddha fruit, Zhenhan became the benevolent Vajra Buddha fruit, even the laziest dragon horse Zhenfeng became the 8th-division heavenly dragon Buddha fruit. Naturally, Zhenfeng, who became the 8th-division heavenly dragon, also shed his dragon horse skin and appeared as a true dragon. Regarding this result, Zhenjia didn't have any objections. Although he was the strongest, he came late, and Zhenkong had already protected Chunzong for most of the journey. Thus, after Chunzong and the others received the Buddhist decree, they all knelt down and kowtowed, saying, "This disciple thanks the Buddhist Lord for his mercy. Give it a recommendation vote, collect it and reward it. Thank you for all forms of support." Chapter 46-35. Boom boom boom. Bursts of Buddhist aura surged, and the huge golden Buddha statue turned into a huge Buddhist lotus, and in another moment, the huge Buddhist lotus turned into hundreds of millions of even smaller Buddhist lotuses, rushed into the night sky, and disappeared in all directions of the hidden immortal continent. Amitabha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord saw the Buddhist lotus vanish, and the title current temple reappeared in the night sky. He pressed his palms together and said, "Your Majesty, today is a joyous occasion for my Thunder Sound Temple and the Immortal Palace. Can you work together with me to take down the mortal world object that is obstructing the sound of Namo Great Compassion and Great Compassion, and allow me to consecrate the first Buddha statue in the hidden immortal continent?" Immortal Emperor Gaochen squinted his eyes. According to their previous discussion, there was no such thing. After the Mahavairakana world lord's Buddhist decree bestowed upon Xuanzang, the Dipankara archaic Buddha should consecrate Nanhua merciful Guanyin. Immortal Emperor Gaochen didn't have to do anything, nor did he have to say anything. Perhaps, the Dipankara archaic Buddha's world lord thought of doing something unnecessary because of the primordial chaos ancestor's words. Immortal Emperor Gaochen wanted to reject it. However, the Dipankara archaic Buddha world's words were so righteous that Immortal Emperor Gaochen couldn't think of any reason to reject it. Seeing that the Dipankara archaic Buddha world had already landed in front of the golden Buddha statue, Immortal Emperor Gaochen could only follow suit. Rise. The Gaochen Immortal Emperor and the Dipankara archaic Buddha looked at each other and waved their hands at the same time. The silk cloth had already been removed from Namo Great Merciful Guanyin's Buddha statue. In the night, the 99 zhang tall Buddha statue was finally revealed. The benevolent appearance of the Buddha statue caused Xiaohua to sigh with emotion in his heart. The real and fake Ci Hang were all appearances. The real Guan Yin Bodhisattva was the real one. Namo Dipankara archaic Buddha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord chanted and said, "In my name, I erect the statue of my Buddhism. Namo Great Merciful Guanyin Bodhisattva's golden body shall emit Buddhist radiance. May the benevolence of my Buddha be gathered on Guanyin's body, and save millions of Buddhists." As he spoke, the Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord raised his right hand, and pressed his thumb, a dazzling Buddha seal, from head to toe, the golden Buddha statue. The Buddha's radiance was different from the previous Buddha statue. First, the Buddha's radiance from head to toe, golden body, from head to toe of the Buddha's radiance of Buddha, of the Buddhas of Buddha's Buddha statue, forming a huge funnel of Buddha of Buddha. The of Buddhas of Buddha was of Guanin's Guanin the world. The Dipankara archaic Buddha was a little surprised to see how different the consecration this time was. However, when he saw the Buddha statue's translucent Buddha radiance and the power of faith descending upon it, the Buddha statue became even more lifelike. Only then did he relax and clasped his palms together. Excellent, excellent. With the power of Buddha, it's time to deliver all living beings from torment. However, before his Buddha fire could land on the ground, an extremely profound fluctuation was emitted from the Buddha statue, which was brimming with the power of faith. As soon as this fluctuation was emitted, it transcended space and landed on Xiaohua's body. As this fluctuation descended, the surging power of faith changed its direction and landed on Xiaohua's head. Then, Namo Dipankara archaic Buddha. Namo Amitabha Buddha. Namo Maitreya Buddha. A series of Buddhist chants resounded, and the power of faith poured into Xiaohua's head. Buddhas of Buddha radiance shone from Xiaohua's body once again, and Sanskrit chants resounded once more. Another phenomenon of Buddha fruit appeared under everyone's astonishment. Not good. As soon as the fluctuation was emitted, Xiaohua could already feel the crystalline godhead in his mind trembling slightly. His expression immediately changed, and he knew that something had happened. Unfortunately, before he could activate any abilities, the fluctuation had already landed on his crystalline godhead and triggered the Buddha fruit. However, Xiaohua's of Buddha fruit was different from the Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva. No radiance appeared behind Xiaohua's head, and the endless power of faith simply disappeared after landing on the back of his head. This is. Not only was the Dipankara archaic Buddha shocked, but even the golden-winged great rock, immortal Emperor Go-Chen, and the primordial mist ancestor were shocked. The primordial mist ancestor even felt a hint of joy in his heart, thinking that this was the Buddhism sect's secret move. Boom. As the fluctuation landed on the crystalline godhead flickered with a faint golden radiance. As soon as the golden radiance appeared, the fluctuation changed again and quickly shrunk back. At the same time, the Buddha light on the Buddha statue's golden body emitted a chaotic sound, and an even brighter Buddha light surged upwards. When the golden radiance dissipated, everyone's gaze landed on the Buddha statue's face, and they were all dumbfounded. This was because the Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva's appearance was no different from Xiaohua's. The primordial mist ancestor even turned his head to look at Xiaohua, then at the Buddha statue's golden body, and then at Xiaohua again. His head spun like a rattle drum. This. The Dipankara archaic Buddha opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. He even forgot to recite the Buddha's name. I understand now. The gloomy immortal Emperor Go-Chen was the first to come to his senses. He clapped his hands and laughed. That benevolent Hang who stopped the heavenly cave river dragon race in the Longevity town and used a Buddhist artifact to collect the Liao River's water was actually Thunder Master Zhao's transformation. No wonder Thunder Master Xiao wasn't there when benevolent Hang appeared, and Thunder Master Xiao only appeared after benevolent Hang left. Congratulations Thunder Master Xiao, congratulations Thunder Sound Temple. The immortal Emperor Go-Chen had vented his anger. He was forced by the Thunder Sound Temple to use the sutra seeking extreme bliss. However, the Thunder Sound Temple had calculated everything, and it ended up benefiting Xiaohua. Although the immortal Emperor Go-Chen didn't gain anything, the Thunder Sound Temple had lost a lot. How could he not be happy? Amitabha. The Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva hurriedly said, "This Buddha statue's golden body isn't mine." Strange. The golden-winged great rock laughed. "Little monk, didn't you see the power of faith in the hidden immortal continent? Didn't it all fall into Daoist Zhao's body? Doesn't this mean that he is the real Namo great compassionate Guanyin Bodhisattva? It doesn't matter if he is a Buddha or not, as long as he is the Guanyin Bodhisattva of all living Buddhas." Oh, this saint still remembers your Buddha saying, "Form is emptiness, emptiness is form"? Daoist Xiao has a Buddhist heart, so why do you care if he is a Buddha or not? Also, the immortal Emperor Go-Chen added fuel to the fire. My immortal palace recognizes this Buddha statue's golden body. As for the appearance of this Buddha statue, my immortal palace doesn't care. If your Buddhist sect changes the Buddha statue's golden body again, you can only use the sutra seeking extreme bliss again. The Grand Mist ancestor's expression was complicated. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but when he looked at the Daoist rider crane and the dark night child, he didn't know what to say. The truth that Xiao Hua was the Namo great compassionate Guanyin Bodhisattva was the biggest and most laughable secret they had ever seen in their lives. Namo Amitabha. Seeing the power of faith continuously entering Xiao Hua's body, the Dipankara archaic Buddha's benevolent expression on the Buddha statue's golden body was vivid and lifelike. Thinking about Xiao Hua, the Dipankara archaic Buddha immediately made a decision. He politely put his palms together and bowed to Xiao Hua. Congratulations to the Guanyin Bodhisattva for achieving the Buddha fruit. Namo Amitabha. Namo Great Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva also stepped forward and bowed. Manjushri greets senior apprentice brother Guanyin. This. Xiao Hua didn't know whether to laugh or cry. If Xiao Hua hadn't cultivated to the Mahayana realm, he wouldn't mind becoming the Guanyin Bodhisattva. However, now that he was a Taoism supreme cultivator, he didn't care about the Buddha fruit. However, he had done a lot of good deeds, and when the Buddha statue's golden body was consecrated, he finally achieved the Bodhisattva Buddha fruit. Amitabha. Xiao Hua was quite familiar with Buddhism's etiquette. He raised his hand and helped the Namo Great Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva up. You and I are old acquaintances. There's no need to be so polite. Senior apprentice brother has just attained the Buddha fruit. You can go with the Buddha of Xuanji merit and the victorious devil-vanquishing Buddha to the Thunder Sound Temple to meet the Mahavirakana World Lord. Namo Great Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva smiled. Xiao Hua hurriedly waved his hand. Forget it, forget it. I won't be going to the Thunder Sound Temple. At this moment, a voice filled with joy and determination said, Amitabha, Dipankara archaic Buddha, I won't be going to the Thunder Sound Temple either. I'll be going to the west to seek scriptures. Although this voice wasn't loud, the Buddha lights that had disappeared immediately surged out once again and covered the entire Longevity town. This time, the Buddha lights were slightly different from before. Each Buddha light condensed into a tiny Buddha lotus, and on each lotus sat a smiling Buddha. The Buddha's face couldn't be seen clearly, and the grade of the lotus was unknown. The Buddha Lord's Great Wish? This is the Buddha Lord's Great Wish. It's comparable to the Namo Great Wish, the Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva's Great Wish. Seeing such a Buddha light phenomenon, Xiao Hua was stunned. Like everyone else, he focused his attention on the source of this voice. It came from Chuanzang, who had just attained the 4 stars meritorious Buddha fruit. Ah! Everyone, the demons, and the Buddhas were all shocked. An indescribable feeling arose in their hearts, and they almost blurted it out. What? What's going on? Is today destined to be recorded in the annals of the 3 continents? Everyone knew that Xiao Hua wouldn't go to the Thunder Monastery. Not to mention that a Daoist Mahayana realm cultivator entering the Thunder Monastery was equivalent to handing his life to the Vairocana world sovereign. Just the fact that Xiao Hua had ambushed the Buddhist sect in the Longevity town made him too embarrassed to appear in front of the Vairocana world sovereign. But what was Chuanzang the Buddha of Xuanji meritorious virtue up to? What was he up to this time? Chapter 46-36. Namo Wisdom Manjushri looked at the astonished Namo Dipankara archaic Buddha and said, Amitabha, Xuanji meritorious Buddha, if you want to preach the Sanzang Buddhist scriptures in the Longevity town and save all living beings, it's fine if you don't go to the Thunder Sound Temple to listen to the Revered One's teachings. If the Revered One knows about it, not only will he not punish you, he will even reward you. But you've already brought the Sanzang Mahayana Buddhist scriptures to the hidden immortal continent. You still want to go to the west to seek scriptures? Where is the west? The scriptures you seek. What scriptures are they? In this world, other than the Thunder Sound Temple, what other scriptures are worth seeking? The Xuanji meritorious Buddha, Chuanzang, put his palms together and replied calmly, Namo Amitabha, Dipankara archaic Buddha, the Revered One, and Namo Wisdom Manjushri, please know that when I was still a child, I entered nirvana for many years. When I entered nirvana, I saw the Western Paradise. I clearly remember that when I entered Nirvana, I walked towards the West for hundreds of years. That's the true origin of my Buddhism, where my Buddhism's true intent lies. Oh no, this is bad. After hearing Xuanzang's words, Xiaohua recalled what Wang Bianfei said when he came out from the space, that little monk wants to head towards the Western Paradise. He has been trekking for hundreds of years. Xiaohua unwittingly came to a realization as he thought to himself, Wang Bianfei has already mentioned this matter previously. Although Jianghu in the space has entered Nirvana, he must have seen the immortal herbs and other things in the space and thought that this was the pure land. And the place where I imprisoned him just so happened to be the east side of the Xinhua continent. He must be heading towards where those immortal herbs are. But how can I explain it to him? Why don't I wait for him to start seeking scriptures, then I'll use the Kunlun mirror to explain it to him. Namo Wisdom Manjushri was speechless. He was a bodhisattva, which was lower than Xuanzang Xuanji meritorious Buddha. Thus, he couldn't criticize Xuanzang in front of everyone. Namo Dipankara archaic Buddha's face was enraged. He looked at Xuanzang, then at Jinkong, and scolded, You have wasted the revered one's care. We? Xuanzang was extremely confused. He looked at Jinkong, not understanding what the Dipankara archaic Buddha was saying. Amitabha, at this moment, Jinkong stepped forward and respectfully kneeled on the ground, and kowtowed, Buddha, I have a great ambition to find the true Buddha scriptures and will, and spread my Buddha's light throughout the world. I've also decided that I'm willing to follow the Buddha of Xuanji math virtue to the west and continue to seek scriptures. Let's go together, let's go together. Jinjie saw this and jumped out as well. Its big ears flapped as it shouted, the Thunder Temple is really stingy. They only gave me the Buddha fruit of a heaven-vigilant arhat. They really let me down. I want to follow my master to the west and get myself a Buddha Lord identity. He didn't expect Yuan Tongtian to be so benevolent. Not only did Yuan Tongtian keep his orders in mind, but he also wanted to follow Jianghu and protect her. Seeing Buddha. Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled and looked at Jinhan and Dragon Horse Jinfeng. Unfortunately, Dragon Horse Jinhan and Dragon Horse Jinhan were confused. They looked at each other and didn't step forward. Clearly, they didn't know about this. Evil creature. The Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord scolded, which he rarely did. Buddhist lights flashed all around him. There is only one Thunder Sound monastery in this world, and only one Mahavirakana World Lord. Where are the true Buddhist scriptures? Where are the true Buddha Lord's Buddhist lights? The Great Snow Mountain's small exquisite temple. Immortal Emperor Gaochen laughed. Namo Maitreya Buddha is the future Buddha Lord. He naturally has the true Buddha scriptures and the Buddha's Buddha light. The Xuanji Maitreya Buddha, Xuanzang, raised his head and looked towards the west. It was still pitch black, and there were only specks of starlight hanging in the sky, guiding the people in the night. Xuanzang said, Amitabha. Benefactor, you're wrong. Disciple isn't going to the Great Snow Mountain or the Blessed Lands. Disciple is going to the west, cross the West Sea, and head towards the abyss of the West Sea. There is my Buddha light. Boom. Xuanzang's words were like a clap of thunder, stunning Xiaohua. He looked at Xuanzang in disbelief and thought, West, the abyss of the West Sea. Isn't it just the Maitreya Sea? Isn't that where I came from? What is the Maitreya Sea? Isn't it just the Dawn Rain continent? What is there in the Dawn Rain continent? Isn't it just the ruins of Buddhism? Could it be that Lu knows about the ruins of Buddhism in the Dawn Rain continent? Impossible. Lu was only a few years old when he entered Serenity. How could he know about the ruins of Buddhism? At that time, let alone senior sister, even I didn't know about the ruins of Buddhism, right? Thinking of this, Xiaohua thought of the day when Buddha Bodhi obtained the Buddha fruit of Namo Maitreya. Lu was the reincarnation of the future Buddha Lord. When he came here, he actually abandoned the position of Buddha Lord. The future Buddha Lord, one of the three great Buddha Lords of Buddhism, has a very high status. If there was no special reason, how could he give it up? That ball of golden light. Thinking of this, Xiaohua understood. It's that ball of golden light. It must be the words that the reincarnated Buddha Maitreya left for the reincarnated Jianghu. That day, Lu entered Serenity and headed west. It looked like he was heading towards the center of Xinhua continent, but in fact, he was heading west. At that time, although he didn't obtain the golden light, he already had a long-cherished wish in his heart, which was to head west. Oh my, Jianghu, my nephew. I'm afraid his background is not small. Bah, of course his background is not small. He is one of the 3 great Buddha lords of Buddhism. But Xiaohua was still confused. Is there anything more noble than the future Buddha lord of Buddhism in this world? He actually made Jing Luer give up the position of the future Buddha lord? Maitreya Buddha. Xiaohua suddenly thought of something. This guy must know something. Otherwise, how could he fall out with the Mahavairakana Buddha lord as soon as he entered Lane Temple? There must be something fishy about this. Forget it, this is a matter of Buddhism. Why should I worry about it? If Lu wants to go, then go. There is only sea water in the West Sea. The so-called space passage is smaller than finding a needle in a haystack. If he didn't know where it is, even with the Mahavairakana Buddha lord's divine sense, he wouldn't be able to find it. Lu is just some Buddha of Xuanji merit. What ability does he have to return to Xiaoyu continent? Besides, if he could find the way back, wouldn't I be able to return as well? While Xiaohua was pondering, the Dipankara archaic Buddha lord's shocked expression gradually faded away. He looked at the great aspiration Buddha lotuses that filled the sky and gradually disappeared into the void. He put his palms together and chanted, Amitba Buddha. Evil fate, evil fate. Buddha of Xuanji merit, victorious devil-slaying Buddha. This matter is of great importance. I must report it to the Mahavairakana Buddha Lord. Amitba Buddha. The victorious devil-slaying Buddha Jinkong said, this matter has nothing to do with my Buddha. It's fine if you don't report it. Haha. Xiaohua couldn't help but laugh at Jinkong's straightforward rejection. He raised his hand and pointed, Jinkong, come here. The victorious devil-slaying Buddha hesitated for a moment. He walked in front of Xiaohua and smiled, Daoist Xiao, this junior is here. Xiaohua smiled, you have already attained Buddhism. You don't have to call yourself a junior anymore. This junior will always remember Daoist's guidance. The victorious devil-slaying Buddha said respectfully, Daoist will always be this junior's benefactor. N. Xiaohua smiled faintly, very satisfied with the victorious devil-slaying Buddha's respect. He raised his hand and took out the wishful scepter, saying, of course, this Xiao has already made it clear on the great snow mountain. After you finish praying in bliss, this wishful scepter is yours. Today, this Xiao came to the longevity town not only to congratulate Chuanzang, but also to give this wishful scepter to you. The victorious devil-slaying Buddha was overjoyed. He raised both hands and respectfully received the wishful scepter. The moment the wishful scepter entered his hand, it actually sank a few centimeters. The victorious devil-slaying Buddha quickly stabilized it and said, this junior thanks Daoist for his gift. All right. Xiaohua smiled and helped the victorious devil-slaying Buddha up. He looked around and didn't hide anything, saying encouragingly, this old man was thinking of waiting until you finished praying in bliss, then choosing a disciple to take you into the fortune gate. But since you're willing to enter Buddhism, and the Vairocana Buddha revered has taken a liking to you, this old man won't compete with him. From now on, your fate with me has come to an end. You must cultivate well, and don't repeat the same mistake. Yes, this junior understands. The victorious devil-slaying Buddha's face was filled with emotions as he nodded. Go. Xiaohua smiled and said, escort Chuanzang to continue praying in the west. This old man has high hopes for you. Many thanks for senior support. The victorious devil-slaying Buddha respectfully walked to the side of the Buddha of Xuanji virtuous virtue. It was only at this moment that the Buddha of Xuanji virtuous virtue seemed to have awakened from a dream. He looked at Xiaohua gratefully and opened his mouth, wanting to say something but hesitated. Some words didn't need to be said, and some love was already engraved in his heart. Io, this old man almost forgot. Seeing the victorious devil-slaying Buddha leave, Xiaohua suddenly slapped his forehead as if he had thought of something. He smiled and said, now that you're a Buddha, you're no longer as arrogant and violent as before. This old man's methods should be withdrawn. After saying that, Xiaohua didn't bother to make any hand seals. He raised his hand and a bolt of lightning flashed, landing directly on the victorious devil-slaying Buddha's head. The victorious devil-slaying Buddha was shocked and wanted to dodge, but even though he was the victorious devil-slaying Buddha, his strength was far inferior to Xiaohua's. How could he dodge? The lightning flashed and hit him. However, after the lightning flashed, the victorious devil-slaying Buddha didn't change much. The sun-moon corona that Xiaohua had expected didn't appear on his head either. Oh! Xiaohua was stunned. He grabbed at the air again, and a shadow fell on top of the victorious devil-slaying Buddha's head. Chapter 46-37. Amitabha, this is bad. How could the Dipankara archaic Buddha not know what had happened? How could he not know what the Mahavairakana archaic Buddha had done wrong? He couldn't help but exclaim. Jinfeng was definitely not without a backer. Moreover, this backer was terrifyingly powerful. Only, after the Dipankara archaic Buddha's exclamation, he shut his mouth. At this point, who could hide the truth of this matter in the three great continents? He couldn't, the Mahavairakana archaic Buddha couldn't, and the Maitreya Buddha couldn't as well. Seeing that the sun-moon corona didn't appear, Xiaohua didn't suspect anything and said with a smile, Mahavairakana is really merciful, to actually remove your Tao crown without my consent. Could it be that he was afraid that I would snatch his disciple? The victorious exorcism Buddha felt guilty for no reason. Although he was good at hearing and could discern the truth, he could see everything clearly. Moreover, if he stood in one place, he could know what was happening 1,000 miles away. He could also hear what mortals were saying. Thus, he was good at hearing and could discern the truth, he could see everything clearly. And yet, as he stood in front of Xiaohua, his divine ability fell upon nothing but emptiness. Even Xiaohua's figure was illusory. He couldn't tell what Xiaohua was thinking, what he was seeing, and what he was hearing. Furthermore, there was no way he could know what the Tao crown Xiaohua was talking about was, or what should have been on top of his head. Thus, he quickly smiled and said, yes, that day at the Thunder Sound Temple, the archaic Buddha saw the invisible Tao crown on my head and felt that it wasn't appropriate for me to be a Buddhist disciple. At that time, he died unfortunately. Before victorious purged demon Buddha could finish speaking, Xiaohua frowned. His eyes flashed like lightning as he stared at victorious purged demon Buddha. At first, victorious purged demon Buddha didn't dare to dodge, but after a moment, his eyes began to flicker. Damn it! You're not Yuan Tong Tian! Xiaohua roared angrily. He raised his hand and grabbed, instantly imprisoning the victorious demon slay Buddha. He shouted, who are you? How dare you pretend to be Yuan Tong Tian? Seeing this, not only was Chunzong shocked, but even Jinjie, Zhenhan, and Jinfeng were shocked. They didn't expect that the real and fake Shin Kong would still be unable to tell the difference after they had arrived at the Thunder Sound Temple. What's more, he let this fake Shin Kong Nirvana Extreme Bliss seek sutras for nearly 50 years. Zhenhan and Jinfeng glanced at the silent Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord and seemed to have thought of something. With a thoughtful look on their faces, they quickly shut their mouths as well. Whether it was the Fortune Gate or the Thunder Tune Temple, neither of them were forces they could afford to offend. Damn it! You're the fake Shin Kong. You actually deceived me for so long. Jinjie shouted. Boom. A thunderous hand streaked across the sky and slapped Jinjie's face. Jinjie, who was at the 8th grade of elemental energy, didn't even have the strength to resist. His entire body tumbled in midair. Xiaohua's cold voice sounded, devouring heaven, this old man asked you to take good care of Chunzong and Jin Kong. How did you do it? Enlightened one, spare my life. Enlightened one, spare my life. Xianxia had seen how Xiaohua killed the heaven-swallowing beast. Now that he saw Xiaohua get angry, the surrounding space was filled with coldness, and layers of lightning were like guillotines surging in the sky above Jianghu Temple. He had long been scared out of his wits and shouted in midair, "This matter has nothing to do with me. I wasn't there at that time." In order to save his life, Xianxia briefly recounted the matter of him chasing after an Quan. He shouted, "As for the specifics, I'm also not clear." Xiaohua gritted his teeth and took a deep breath, temporarily suppressing the anger in his chest. He looked at the victorious demon-vanquishing Buddha whose eyes were filled with terror and ignored him. He looked at Chunjun and said, "Chunzong, tell me, what is going on?" Chunjun hesitated for a moment. After recovering from his shock, he turned around to take a look. The entire process was as clear as a mirror. This Shen Kong was definitely not Yuan Tong Tian, and the real Yuan Tong Tian had already disappeared from the shores of the Eastern Sea. However, he was very conflicted in his heart. Previously, Shen Kong did his best to protect him, but he was also arrogant and unruly. He often killed Dao Gate cultivators and demonic beast race cultivators, which really made Chunjun worried to death. There were also many clashes between them. After arriving at the hidden immortal continent, although this fake Shen Kong was not as devoted to protecting him as the real Shen Kong, he was still very respectful and courteous toward him. This was especially true as this fake Shen Kong was also proficient in Buddhist techniques and would often debate with him. Chunzong naturally had his suspicions when he saw Shen Kong's improvement and change. However, Chunzong was clear that it was impossible for the Thunder Temple's Mahavairakana revered Buddha to not be able to differentiate between the real and fake Shen Kong. This Shen Kong must be the real Shen Kong. The reason why he changed was just like what Shen Kong said after returning from the Thunder Temple. After seeing the expression of the real and fake Shen Kong, he was enlightened by the Mahavairakana revered Buddha. He knew that his previous inadequacies were being changed by his efforts. What Chunzong saw was different from the previous Shen Kong. It was his change. Now that Chunzong thought about it again, his heart was filled with bitterness. He mocked himself for being childish and avoiding it. Although people could change, their nature couldn't be changed. It was the same for the demonic beast race. Yuan Tong Tian was arrogant and killed people without hesitation. Although he wanted to change, how could he change in the blink of an eye? It wasn't that he didn't suspect if this Shen Kong was Yuan Tong Tian. Instead, he was avoiding it because he liked the fake Shen Kong and didn't like the real Shen Kong. He had let down Yuan Tong Tian, who sincerely protected him. If I treat Yuan Tong Tian like this, then what about the Mahavairakana revered Buddha? Chunzong thought more than Xiaohua. Seeing Chunzang's hesitation, the Dipankara archaic Buddha spoke, "Amitba. Benefactor Xiao. Shut up." Xiaohua roared and stopped the Dipankara archaic Buddha from speaking. He yelled, "Old Dipankara, it's not that I don't want to give your Thunder Temple a chance. It's just that it's not the time for you to speak. If you dare to say anything else, I'll kill you and Manjushri first before leading the Fortune Gate's disciples to attack the Thunder Temple. I'm not interested in the Guanyin Bodhisattva's Buddha fruit, but I'm interested in the Buddha Lord's Buddha seat." Hearing this, the Gaochen Immortal Emperor's eyes lit up. The Grand Mist Ancestor, who had been quietly observing, also revealed a smile. How could the Dipankara archaic Buddha fall for it? He smiled and ignored Xiaohua's words. He didn't want to argue with Xiaohua anymore. Unfortunately, the Dipankara archaic Buddha was too weak. He had already underestimated Xiaohua's strength. If Xiaohua had truly given up and killed him in the Longevity Town regardless of the price he had to pay, it wouldn't be a joke. Sigh. Seeing Xiaohua so angry, Chuanzong also became alert in his heart. He sighed and explained the cause of the matter in full detail. Tai-bai Jinxing. Xiaohua turned his head without hesitation and looked at Tai-bai Jinxing. "Speak." "Yes, Lightning Master Xiao." Tai-bai Jinxing didn't feel any pressure facing the Lightning Master of the Immortal Palace. Although he had already seen through it, he didn't point it out. Instead, he kicked this troublesome matter to the Thunder Temple. As such, he casually told everything he knew. You. Xiaohua squinted his eyes and looked at the Nanwa wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva, who had gone through life and death with him. His gaze was filled with hostility. Nanwa wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva didn't feel any pressure. That day, he had already seen through who was the real fire ape and who was the real six-eared macaque. However, he didn't make any decision. Still, he glanced at the Dipankara archaic Buddha. Amitabha. Now that things have come to this, tell me the truth. The Dipankara archaic Buddha pressed his palms together. Yes, World Lord. Nanwa wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva told him everything he saw by the East Sea's shore, how he had already seen through the reason but couldn't differentiate between the real and the fake. He then brought the two Jinkongs to the Thunder Temple, and how Yuan Tong Tian was killed by the fake Jinkong. Hearing that Yuan Tong Tian had been killed, Xiaohua's eyes turned red. Yuan Tong Tian was loyal to him and followed his orders to protect Jianghu. Who would have thought that he would be killed by the fake Jinkong in the Thunder Temple? Such an ending made Xiaohua furious. Ha ha ha. Xiaohua looked at the fake Jinkong that he had imprisoned and laughed. Poor Yuan Tong Tian. He was killed by you in front of Mahavirakana. Mahavirakana is really blind. I really want to know what kind of background you have to have Mahavirakana protect you. After saying that, Xiaohua slapped his forehead and used another ability of the delusion-breaking Dharma Eye, Heavenly Eye. However, when Xiaohua saw it clearly, his eyes widened and he yelled, "Damn it, damn it, damn it. It's actually the six-eared macaque. I should have strangled you to death that day. I shouldn't have listened to Master Ma Qin and let you live. Now, I've angered Yuan Tong Tian and lost my life because of it." After saying that, Xiaohua raised his hand, and a bolt of lightning flashed on his finger. It pierced through the void and was about to pierce the six-eared macaque's heart. Amitabha. Xiao Tanyue, please show mercy. Please listen to this old monk's explanation. It won't be too late to attack after that. The Dipankara archaic Buddha didn't dare to be careless. He raised his hand, and Buddha lights appeared out of nowhere. A 9th rank Buddha lotus blocked the lightning. Buddha lights overflowed from the Buddha lotus, and countless Buddha kingdoms appeared from within. Damn you, bald donkey. Xiaohua sneered and said angrily, "You dare to show off in front of this old man with such means? Do you think I can't kill you?" Xiaohua didn't take any action and allowed the Buddhist lotus to block the Buddhist light. Boom. The seemingly dim lightning struck the Buddhist lotus and a huge rumbling sound was produced. The Buddhist kingdom was instantly annihilated and the Buddhist lotus also withered to an extreme degree. Amidst the explosion, the lightning flew towards the six-eared macaque's heart like Xiaohua's killing intent. The Dipankara archaic Buddha's expression changed greatly. He realized that Xiaohua's threat wasn't just empty words. However, if he wanted to attack now, it was too late. Chapter 46-38. Seeing that the six-eared macaque was about to be killed, Chunzong suddenly knelt on the ground and said, "Uncle, please restrain your thunderous rage and listen to what the Dipankara archaic Buddha has to say." "Boy, I only just learned that Jinkong had died. I've let Jinkong down. If I've done something wrong, I'll have to bear the responsibility." The word uncle was like a sudden clap of thunder, striking everyone in the field. Even the Dipankara archaic Buddha was dumbfounded once again. This was the biggest secret of the Sutra praying of Nirvana. It was even bigger than the secret of Jinkong being sent by Xiaohua. This was a secret that even the Mahavirakana archaic Buddha didn't know about. What's the background of this Xiaohua? The primordial mist ancestor squinted his eyes and thought to himself, not only is he the dragon master of the Dragon Island, the thunder master of the immortal palace, the Buddhist sect's Namo great merciful Mahavirakana Bodhisattva, even the Xuanji Mahavirakana Buddha is his nephew. Who in the 3 continents can rival him? If Xiaohua isn't eliminated, how can my sky-bearing palace rise? Golden radiances flickered in the golden-winged great rock's eyes. While he was shocked, he was glad that he had the intention to befriend Xiaohua. As for the Gochin immortal emperor, his face was blocked by the golden radiances. Although he was feeling complicated, no one knew what he was thinking. Seeing Chunzong kneeling and calling him uncle, Xiaohua pondered for a moment and kept the lightning radiances. He said calmly, You're the Xuanji Mahavairakana Buddha and my nephew. I can't ignore your words. However, Yuan Tongtian was ordered by me to protect you. He was loyal to you. Now that he died in such a pitiful manner, I will investigate his death to the end. If you're in the wrong, don't blame me for being ruthless. Yes, boy understands. Although I don't know what exactly happened, I feel that the secret behind this seems to be beyond your imagination, and even beyond the imagination of the venerables of the world. Chuanzong hurriedly expressed his thoughts. Speak. Xiaohua looked at the Namo Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord. Sigh. The Dipankara archaic Buddha let out a sigh. After sending a voice transmission, Immortal Emperor Gochen smiled. Dipankara archaic Buddha, since you have something to say, why don't you make it public? If you were to deceive my immortal palace's master Lei, I'm afraid that even if he was involved, he wouldn't know. Motherfucker, shut up. Xiaohua felt vexed for no reason and scolded, Gouchen old man, and you, this old man still hasn't settled the score with you. If you don't tell me where the Heaven's Punishment Prison crystal is, I won't let you leave Longevity Town. Boom. Immortal Emperor Go Chen's body shone with golden light. It seemed like he was about to get angry. The golden-winged Great Peng beside him laughed and said, Not bad, not bad. I've heard that Xiao Longshi is infatuated with the new princess. For the sake of his love, he killed 900,000 disciples of the 4 great clans. Today, this holy sage will lend Xiao Longshi a helping hand. Damn it. Immortal Emperor Go Chen cursed. The radiance only circled around him and didn't attack. If the great sage hall joined forces with the Fortune Gate, the Immortal Palace might not be their match. Speak. In order to seek justice for Yuan Tongtian, Xiaohua didn't hesitate to glare at the 3 exalted experts of the 3 continents and said to the Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord. Amitba, it's like this. Naturally, the Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord wouldn't let Immortal Emperor Go Chen, the primordial mist ancestor, and the others know about the Thunder Sound Temple secret. Hearing this, Xiaohua's heart was filled with complex emotions. He didn't know what to say. The 6-eared macaque was Ananda's reincarnation. However, just like the Prime Clarity Palace Lord and Grand Clarity Palace Lord's clones, Ananda didn't return to the 3 continents. Instead, he returned to the Dawn Rain continent. Ananda shouldn't have returned to the Blessed Land world. However, he met Xiaohua, and Xiaohua brought him and the fire ape Yuan Tongtian to the 3 continents. Ananda's reincarnation, the 6-eared macaque, didn't have such powerful abilities. It was impossible for him to have such powerful illusions. However, after experiencing the separation of yin and yang in his own space, his abilities were greatly enhanced. His future potential was limitless. The Mahavairakana archaic Buddha world lord made the right choice when facing the real Jinkong Yuan Tongtian and the fake Jinkong 6-eared macaque. After all, the Mahavairakana archaic Buddha world lord made the right choice when facing Jinkong Yuan Tongtian and the fake Jinkong 6-eared macaque. This was because the Mahavairakana archaic Buddha world lord had mistaken Jinkong 6-eared macaque for Ananda. In other words, in the eyes of the Mahavairakana archaic Buddha world lord, Jianghu and Yuan Tongtian were both fake. Only this 6-eared macaque was the real one. The fruit of defeating the demon Buddha wasn't given to Yuan Tongtian. It was given to the 6-eared macaque and Ananda. However, because of his appearance, he had snatched Nanwu Maitreya Buddha world lord's Buddha position. Jianghu had snatched Ananda's Prajnaparamita Heart Sutra. The 6-eared macaque didn't dare to snatch it from Jianghu. He could only snatch Yuan Tongtian's. All of this happened when he appeared at the East Sea. When he appeared to scheme, he was discovered by the Mahavairakana archaic Buddha world lord. The Thunder Temple wasn't wrong. The Mahavairakana archaic Buddha world lord wasn't wrong either. At that time, it was the best time to point the 6-eared macaque as Jinkong. This opportunity was also fought for by the 6-eared macaque with all his might. the one who was wrong could only be the six-eared macaque and Ananda. He didn't expect the fire ape Yuan Tongtian, who had always ignored everyone, to be so loyal to Xiaohua. Xiaohua also valued Yuan Tongtian so much, because with his ability, he couldn't see what was happening in the Xinhua continent. Therefore, he made the wrong choice, which was to kill the fire ape. Because the six-eared macaque couldn't see through Xiaohua's actions, he didn't know that the fire ape had a sun-moon crown on his head. As the Buddha of Xuanji Maitreya, Chunzong naturally couldn't hear the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord's voice transmission. He only saw the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord clasping his hands together and lowering his head in silence. Xiaohua looked at the sky with a complicated expression. Only then did he speak. "Uncle, boy didn't notice and let the six-eared macaque kill Yuan Tongtian. This boy has let Yuan Tongtian down. Please punish me. Stand up, lure." Xiaohua helped Chunzong up and shook his head. "You're just a mortal. You don't know about this. Even Taibai Jinxing and Manjushri Bodhisattva don't know about this. How can you be responsible for this? Don't worry and go to the West to seek scriptures. With the protection of the chastity precepts and my reputation, if anyone dares to do anything to you, my fortune gate will kill them all." "No, uncle. You don't understand." Although Chunzong stood up, he still had tears on his face as he said, "Boy did suspect it before, but then, Chunzong told Xiaohua about his regrets." Xiaohua frowned. Zhenkong was loyal to Chunzong, but he didn't have the heart to follow Buddhism. Compared to Ananda's reincarnation of the six-eared macaque, he was much weaker. Xiaohua pondered for a while and nodded. "If that's the case, I won't pursue the Thunder Sound Temple's responsibility. However, since the six-eared macaque killed Yuan Tongtian, I won't let it go. Even if the Mahavairakana World Lord comes, I'll still take his life." Ha ha ha. Speaking until here, Xiaohua suddenly laughed. He looked at the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord with a meaningful gaze and said, "Do you know why the Mahavairakana World Lord didn't come to the Longevity Town?" Amitabha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord shook his head and said, "Xiao Tan, you're overthinking. The World Lord isn't such a scheming person. He had already paid the price when Yuan Tongtian was killed. I don't care what the price is. Xiaohua only wanted to take revenge for Yuan Tongtian." He waved his hand and said, "I only want to kill the six-eared macaque to take revenge for Yuan Tongtian." Amitabha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord felt helpless. He knew that Xiaohua's means had already surpassed his abilities. Even if he couldn't stop Xiaohua, he still wouldn't be his opponent. He looked at the six-eared macaque and smiled bitterly. "Ananda, if you knew this would happen, why did you follow him? Have you realized it?" "Humph." Xiaohua snorted. The lightning in the sky dispersed, and the six-eared macaque's body was released. The six-eared macaque landed on the ground. The panic on his face had already disappeared. He looked at the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord, then looked at the Thunder Sound Temple. However, there wasn't any regret on his face. He knelt on the ground and kowtowed 9 times in the direction of the Thunder Sound Temple. He said, "Master, I've always thought that I'm smart, and that I'm the wisest person in Buddhism. However, when I was about to die, I realized that I knew nothing. You've done so much for me, and I felt that everything was natural. When I'm reborn, I'll be your disciple again. When that time comes, I hope that you won't restrict me too much. Let me have my freedom." After that, the six-eared macaque kowtowed to Chunzong again and said, "Master, although you've taken away my opportunity, I've gained a lot from following you. Although it hasn't been a long time, I've finally realized that my heart towards Buddhism is like the light of a firefly compared to Master. Master, you're my role model. Everything that I've done, I can only blame myself. The Tao of Karma is nothing more than that. Today, I'll take my leave. I wish you success in your quest for the Western scriptures, and complete your dream." Sigh. Chunzong wanted to say something, but all the words he wanted to say turned into a sigh. The six-eared macaque stood up and looked at Xiaohua. He wasn't afraid at all. He said calmly, "Enlightened one, if you want to kill me, no one in this world would dare to stop you. Don't worry, I won't resist. However, you don't have the right to kill me. On the hidden immortal continent, there's only one person who has the right to decide my life or death. I only want you to follow me to a place. If that person says that I deserve to die, I won't say anything else. You don't have to do anything. I'll kill myself to appease the world." Chapter 46-39. Looking at the reincarnated six-eared macaque, Xiaohua sneered. The Dipankara archaic Buddha had already stated that Ananda had chosen to enter the beast Tao and reincarnate into the demon race to avoid the Mahavairakana exalted Buddha. His intention to betray the Tao was clear. Then, Xiaohua said, "Oh? Hidden immortal continent? I thought it was the Thunder Sound Temple's Mahavairakana exalted Buddha. So it's the hidden immortal continent. I'm curious. Even I don't have the right to kill you, yet that person has the right to do so. Who is that person? Rest assured, enlightened master. That person has no cultivation and is just a mortal. Enlightened master will know when you see him." The six-eared macaque said calmly. He knew the situation he was in and didn't dare to say anything to provoke Xiaohua. He only looked at Xiaohua and stated, "What if I don't go?" Xiaohua asked. "Enlightened master, you can choose not to go. No one in this world would dare to force you to go." The six-eared macaque replied, "However, since enlightened master is talking about karma, let me settle it." Looking at the six-eared macaque's calmness and calmness in his eyes, Xiaohua's heart skipped a beat. "All right." Xiaohua nodded and looked at the thunderbolt immortal, Wen Chu, and the heavenly being. He threw the Kunlun mirror to the heavenly being and instructed, "Fellow Daoists, please guard this place. No one is allowed to leave. I'll be back soon." "Yes." The thunderbolt immortal's voice was like thunder. He looked at the Gochin immortal emperor. The heavenly being took the Kunlun mirror and looked at everyone with bright eyes. "Dragon Master Xiao, please go. This sage will also stay here and won't leave." The golden-winged great roc looked at Feng Wu and quickly expressed his stance. "Humph." The Gochin immortal emperor sneered. He flipped his right hand and took out the clear heavenly mirror. He said, "The hidden immortal continent is my territory. Who can stop me from going anywhere I want?" Old man Gauchin. The Grand Mist ancestor immediately shouted. "Don't be arrogant. You dare to disobey Daoist Xiao?" Initially, the Namo Dipankara archaic Buddha was about to leave with the myriad Buddhas. Upon hearing Xiaohua's words, he couldn't help but frown. However, after hearing the Gochin immortal emperor and the primordial mist ancestor's words, his frown loosened. He said, "Your Majesty, the Sutra Praying to Extreme Bliss is a grand event held by my immortal palace and the Thunder Monastery. Although it's completed today, this old monk still has some insights to share with Your Majesty. If Your Majesty doesn't mind, can you please descend from the clouds and discuss with this old monk?" "Forget it." The Gochin immortal emperor pondered for a moment and nodded, "Dipankara archaic Buddha, I'll stay behind to listen to you. This time, both our sects have exhausted so much effort, only to end up benefiting others. How sad. Your Majesty's words are too serious." The Dipankara archaic Buddha smiled and said, "It doesn't matter if it's a wedding dress or not. As long as the Buddha's light falls upon the concealed immortal, and the Confucian's words become blissful, our goal has been achieved." Seeing that everything was settled, Xiaohua waved his hand and took the six-eared macaque away. Then, he asked, "Where are we going?" "There." The six-eared macaque pointed at the shore of the East Sea. Without saying anything, Xiaohua's figure flickered, and he transformed into a bolt of lightning, shooting into the distance. Seeing that Xiaohua had left, the primordial chaos ancestor, Daoist rider Crane, and Child of the Dark Night looked at each other. Then, they flew toward the Thunderbolt Hermit and cupped their hands, saying, "I'm the primordial chaos ancestor." "Greetings, Daoist Thunderbolt." The Gochin immortal emperor and the Dipankara archaic Buddha descended and stopped above the Riverside Temple. The Manjushri Bodhisattva turned around and looked at the Buddhas and heavenly kings before sitting down cross-legged. The golden-winged great rock and Phoenix Wu smiled and landed in front of Wen Chu. Then, he cupped his hands and said, "Long time no see." Immortal Wen Chu. Jinjia, on the other hand, had a troubled look on his face. In front of Chuanzang, he complained, "Master, have you ever considered letting Jinfeng participate in this Western Paradise scripture retrieval? I'm used to riding him, and I really don't want to let him go. Moreover, we're heading to the West Sea. If you keep Jinfeng, wouldn't it be more convenient to ride the 8 divisions heavenly dragon's body in the West Sea?" Before Chuanzang could say anything, Jinfeng's figure flickered, and he flew to the side of the golden-winged great rock. He had already made up his mind. He was the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace's 10th prince. Today, he had already become an 8 divisions heavenly dragon. Next time, he would never be fooled by the Western Paradise scripture retrieval, even if he was given a Buddhist seat. After all, Jinjia was too heavy, and the way he put it was too smelly. Everyone was waiting for Xiao Hua's return in the Longevity Town. However, no one expected that in just a few moments, a thunderous rumble could be heard. Rumble. In the southwest, in the direction of the East Sea's shore, a thunderous rumble could be heard. Thousands of flames appeared in the sky within 1,000 miles, burning away the darkness before dawn. "Oh, what's going on?" Seeing that it was the direction Xiao Hua and the 6-eared macaque were heading, everyone was shocked. How could they not know what had happened? Perfected cultivator Qing Yuan, quickly go and take a look. Immortal Emperor Gaochen flew up first and shouted, "What's going on?" "Humph, pretentious." Celestial being was not used to Immortal Emperor Gaochen's behavior. He snorted and said, "It's only 1,000 miles. You'll know if you use the clear eyes technique. However, before Celestial being could finish, he shouted, "What? What formation is blocking the southwest of the Longevity Town?" These words were transmitted by Xiao Hua's mind. Wen Chu's expression also changed, and he hurriedly covered it up. "That's right, fellow immortal." Xiao sent a message. "He's blocked by a mysterious formation in the southwest of the Longevity Town. He can't leave from there. Celestial being, use the Kunlun mirror to subdue Chunzong and then go to assist Xiao Xian. Thunderbolt Immortal, you stay here and don't fall for the trick of luring the tiger away from the mountain. Rock Sage and Phoenix Sage, please go to the north of Longevity Town to investigate." After saying that, Wen Chu said to Immortal Emperor Gaochen, "Your Majesty, stay here as well. I'll go with Sun Jian to the east." "All right, thank you, Wen Chu Palace Master." When Immortal Emperor Gaochen saw Wen Chu's arrangement, he knew that Xiao Hua was guarding against him. He didn't say anything and just followed Wen Chu's instructions. Then, Wen Chu smiled at the Dipankara archaic Buddha and said, "If it's possible, World Lord, you can stay here as well. How about inviting the Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva to the west of the Longevity Town to investigate?" Amitabha. That's how it should be. The Dipankara archaic Buddha didn't say anything else. He ordered the Manjushri Bodhisattva to bring some arhats and other Buddhas over. "As for the 3 of you, you can stay here as well." Wen Chu looked at the primordial chaos ancestor and the others and said with a fake smile, "Thank you, fellow Daoists." The primordial chaos ancestor knew how important this matter was. He didn't dare to say anything that might cause a misunderstanding. He cupped his hands and descended, sitting cross-legged with Daoist rider Crane and the Dark Night Child on the Jianghu Ridge. After the assignment was done, Wen Chu brought Sun Jian and the other immortal generals and flew towards the east. Xiao Hua took the 6-eared macaque with him and flew southwest. He did not know who the 6-eared macaque was talking about, but he knew that since the karmic hands were moving, he should go with the 6-eared macaque and find out who this mysterious person was. Therefore, Xiao Hua didn't say anything to the 6-eared macaque. He only focused on flying. 1,000 miles passed in a blink of an eye. The surrounding sky started to darken, and the starry sky started to hide. Xiao Hua knew that this was the darkness before dawn. It was also at this moment that Xiao Hua suddenly felt some indescribable fluctuations in space. These fluctuations were like cotton wool that wrapped around Xiao Hua's body in an instant. After several breaths of time, Xiao Hua felt as if the space around him was filled with invisible obstacles. His flying speed suddenly decreased, as if he had fallen into a quagmire. Oh! What's going on? Xiao Hua was taken aback, but he didn't stop moving. He released his divine sense, and with a flicker, he teleported into the distance. Unfortunately, in the blink of an eye, Xiao Hua's figure appeared again. He couldn't stay in the void for long, so he couldn't use his teleportation technique. Moreover, the strange thing was that when he released his divine sense, there were no obstacles within 10,000 miles. However, when he released his divine sense, it was almost the same. It was as if, when his divine sense fell into the summer restriction, it seemed that his divine sense swept far away, but in reality, it was very close. The primordial chaos ancestors' ambush. This thought flashed through Xiao Hua's mind, but after a moment, he laughed involuntarily. Even if the primordial chaos ancestor had obtained an opportunity in the Star Moon Palace, and his cultivation had reached the late Great Ascension stage, if he wanted to face the experts of the 3 continents, he still couldn't do it. He couldn't do such an unwise thing. Break. Xiao Hua was too lazy to think about it. He grabbed the 6-eared macaque, imprisoned it, and threw it into the Shenhua continent. Then, he waved his hands, and a thunderous hand appeared, grabbing at the invisible restriction. Boom. The sound of thunder was loud, and the void within a few miles was torn apart. The feeling of being entangled by the fluctuations was still there. Damn it. Xiao Hua was truly enraged. He rubbed his hands again, and thousands of thick crystal lights fell into the void. Boom boom boom. Ka-cha-cha. In the sky several li away, thunderstorms surged and surged like a tide, covering the sky and covering the earth as they fell. However, the thunderbolts were like pearls cast into darkness, and it didn't cause any ripples. Everything around him was like an illusion. Open. Xiao Hua hurriedly retreated. When the fluctuations that entangled him disappeared, Xiao Hua slapped his forehead and opened his delirium breaker Dharma eye. When he saw everything in front of him, he couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. In the delirium breaker Dharma eye, layers of fist-sized flames filled the entire space like clouds. These flames were light red, and the delirium breaker Dharma eye could see them clearly. Xiao Hua understood that what the delirium breaker Dharma eye saw was condensed from the essence of vitality. These layers of flames must be an extremely powerful restriction formation. Who is it? Xiao Hua was shocked. Who dares to set up such a formation when the supremes of the various sects are gathered at the Longevity Town? Chapter 4640. Fellow Daoists. Xiao Hua immediately sent a sound transmission in his heart. The southwest direction of Longevity Town is blocked by a forbidden array. I can't go out. Quickly, fellow Daoist Celestial, come and help fellow Daoists, you all go and take a look. After sending the sound transmission, Xiao Hua opened his illusion breaker eye again and activated his flying technique to fly into the flaming clouds. Sure enough, when Xiao Hua's figure fell into the flaming clouds, those clouds were like cotton wool. They could be scattered but they would not shatter. Xiao Hua's flying figure was entangled by the scattered clouds, and when more clouds were entangled around Xiao Hua's body, Xiao Hua once again felt that it was difficult to move. Humph. Xiao Hua sneered and closed his illusion breaker eye. What he saw with his naked eye was still a pitch-black night sky. Not long after, the Celestial flew over with the Kunlun mirror and shouted, "Fellow Daoist, don't worry, I'll help you." With that, the Celestial was about to take out the white bones. Don't be anxious. Xiao Hua raised his hand to stop the Celestial and said, Eye's lightning hand can't even tear apart this inexplicable forbidden array. I'm afraid that your Celestial's white bones won't be enough. Hee, that's true. The Celestial being smiled foolishly and nodded. That's all I have. You know all about it. Just tell me what you want me to do. How's your refining of the 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper? Xiao Hua narrowed his eyes, raised his hand to signal the Celestial to give him the Kunlun mirror, and then asked. The Celestial gave the Kunlun mirror to Xiao Hua and said, the 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper is the celestial race's heaven artifact. Although I have the method to repair and refine it, it has only been a few decades and can't be fully completed. However, even if the 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper is completely repaired, I'm afraid it's useless to break this restriction. Xiaohua took the Kunlun mirror and first stored Chunzong into the Shenhua continent. This time, he was relieved and nodded. Fellow Daoist is right. The 10,000 extinguishing heavenly dipper is used for fighting. If it's used for breaking restrictions, it's useless. Seeing that Xiaohua was neither anxious nor slow, the Celestial understood and said with a smile, so fellow Daoist already has a method to break the restriction. You called me over just because you're worried. Indeed. Xiaohua nodded and said, I have 2 ways to break the seal, but I don't know which one is useful. Fellow Daoist, hurry up and break the seal. The Celestial said with a smile. I'm rather curious. Who would dare to besiege Longevity Town at this time? There are supreme beings from the Immortal Palace, Thunder Temple, Great Holy Hall, and Fortune Gate here. Who else could it be? Xiaohua sneered. At this moment, even if he used his heel to think, he knew who was behind this. Who on this hidden immortal continent has such strength? No way. Xiaohua thought in his heart, and did not hide it from Heaven Man. Heaven Man immediately exclaimed, it's actually the 4 great families? Aren't they? Aren't they setting up a formation at Dawn and Dusk Cliff to fight against my Fortune Gate? How could they have set up such a large restrictive formation in the Longevity Town? Right now, we can't be sure if it's one of the 4 great families. At this time, Xiaohua didn't seem to be particularly anxious to break the array. Instead, he asked with a smile, however, I have 70% confidence. Fellow Celestial, do you still remember the 2 doubts I had in the Fortune Dao Palace? Heaven Man slapped his own forehead and laughed, I understand now. Fellow Daoist, you suspected that the 4 great families didn't use their full strength that day. So, they were just deliberately mystifying things at Dawn and Dusk Cliff to attract our attention and also the Immortal Palace's attention. They made that old man Gauchen think that the 4 great families were here to steal Wen Chu's 5 Qi unification art, but in reality, their target was the Longevity Town. Their goal was Immortal Emperor Gauchen. Yes. Xiaohua nodded. If I'm not mistaken, the 4 great families have been setting up this Longevity Town for many years. It might even have started after the Sutra Seeking Extreme Bliss began. They knew that when the Sutra Seeking Extreme Bliss ended, Immortal Emperor Gauchen would definitely leave the Immortal Palace and come to the Longevity Town. They set up a formation here to take Immortal Emperor Gauchen's life or take his position. In order to not arouse Immortal Emperor Go Chen's suspicion, they had placed an army of 900,000 at Chaomuya. Now, Immortal Emperor Go Chen had fallen for their trap and easily left the palace to come to hidden Immortal Continent. We are just fish in the moat caught in a fire at the city gates. Damn it, the 4 great families are too cunning. Heaven Man was speechless. At this time, Wen Chu's voice sounded in their minds. That is indeed the case. There's also a strange wave coming from the east of Longevity Town, filling up the space. I can see it with my divine sense and clear eyes technique, but I can't pass through. As for what the wave looks like, I can't see it clearly. Wen Chu then smiled and said, Fellow Immortal Xiao, do you still want to break the restriction now? What's wrong with me? Break what restriction now? Xiaohua smiled. This is the time to threaten Gauchen old man. If we don't seize this opportunity, how will we know where the Heaven's Punishment Prison Crystal is? As for that 6-eared macaque, it doesn't matter when we kill him. Plus, I didn't promise him to find that mysterious person. If I am not happy, I will just kill him. Xiaohua's body flashed, and he brought the Heaven Man to where Wen Chu was. At this time, the eastern sky was filled with immortal generals. These immortal generals used their own divine abilities, wanting to rush out. Unfortunately, they could only fly out a few miles before they were blocked by the space. It was difficult for them to take another step. Seeing Xiaohua come over, Sun Jian hurried forward to greet him. Xiaohua nodded and opened his delusion breaker Dharma eye. He saw that in the horizon, there were golden lotuses shining with dazzling golden light. They were like layers of clouds that covered the entire heaven and earth. All of the immortal generals were trapped in these golden lotus clouds. Hee hee. Xiaohua laughed coldly and turned to fly to the north. Sun Jian hurriedly called out, Master Xiaolei, did you find anything? Oh. Xiaohua asked curiously. Don't you have the void breaker eyes? Can't you see it? Junior's void breaker eyes are most useful for breaking the seal of the void. Junior tried to open it just now, but the void is blocked. Junior's void breaker eyes can't open it. Sun Jian answered honestly. When Xiaohua heard that, he thought of something. His expression changed slightly, and he immediately took out the Kunlun mirror. As expected, the Kunlun mirror's light beam fell into the void, and the void was empty. There was no spatial passage that he expected to be born. Damn it. Xiaohua cursed and hurriedly urged his soul consciousness. He wanted to see the Black Wind Ridge's teleportation formation, which was not too far from here. Unfortunately, he still couldn't discover the Black Wind Ridge even though he had released his soul awareness more than 10,000 miles away. He couldn't discover the teleportation formation either. Xiaohua knew that Daoist witches going south, going north was probably going to lose its effect in this forbidden formation. Then, he thought for a moment and asked, General Sun, who do you think this mysterious formation is? Sun Jian answered without hesitation. If it's not the 4 great families, then it's the 100 schools of thought. Even if it's the 100 schools of thought, it's still instigated by the 4 great families. And, this old man thinks so too. Xiaohua nodded. You should hurry and report to old man Gaochen. Tell him to wash his neck clean and wait. Sun Jian's expression changed, but he still respectfully said, Junior understands. Junior will go report to him right now. Seeing Sun Jian and Tai Bai Jinxing leave in a hurry, Xiaohua didn't delay and went to the north of Longevity Town. In the northern sky, Saint Peng and Saint Phoenix, the 2 great saints of the demon race, saw Xiaohua appear. Saint Peng came to greet him. Xiaohua helped Sage Peng up and asked, Sage Peng, did you find anything strange? Of course. The Golden Rock sneered. This is the work of those old bald donkeys from the Thunder Temple. No wonder Mahavarakana didn't come, he set up this formation outside. Thunder Temple? Mahavarakana? Xiaohua was a little confused and asked, why does Sage Peng say that? This void is filled with the light of relics. No matter how I use my flying technique, I can't break through this light. The Golden Rock pointed to the distant sky and said. Phoenix Wu looked at Xiaohua and said, Sage Peng and this sage have already tried, but we didn't succeed. I think. Fellow Daoist's lightning escape technique also can't succeed. Xiaohua turned pale with fright. He asked, is Phoenix Sage sure? After all, Xiaohua's lightning escape technique had once been close to breaking through the limit of time law in Star Moon Palace. How could it not break through this restriction? Previously, he and the Celestial had patted their chests with confidence. One was the Kunlun mirror, and the other was naturally this lightning escape technique. Basically, I'm sure. Phoenix Wu nodded. If fellow Daoist doesn't believe me, you can try. Xiaohua naturally wouldn't try now. He only opened his delusion breaker eyes. Sure enough, as the Golden Rock said, his eyes were filled with the light of relics. There were no other colors. Hiss. Xiaohua pinched his chin and thought to himself, could this really be the work of the Thunder Sound Temple? Why do they want to use this restriction formation? Other than the Immortal Palace and the Great Sage Hall, there's only my Fortune Gate and the so-called Sky-Bearing Palace. Could it be? They want to destroy my Taoism? Thinking of this, Xiaohua's face turned cold. He instantly teleported to the western sky. At this time, the east wind broke through the dawn. The warm sunlight pierced through the darkness, and the western sky was still a little white. When Xiaohua saw Nanwu Wisdom Manjushri leading a group of guardian heavenly kings, arhats, and Vajras to break through the restriction formation, Xiaohua's suspicion disappeared. If the Buddhism sect had laid down a restriction formation, the Dipankara archaic Buddha and Nanwa wisdom Manjushri would definitely be the first to leave the formation. Why would they stay here as hostages for no reason? Of course, this didn't eliminate the possibility that the Buddhism sect was trying to hide something. Greetings, senior apprentice brother. Nanwa wisdom Manjushri hurriedly greeted Xiaohua. You're too polite, Bodhisattva. Xiaohua hurriedly helped Manjushri up and said, it's better to call me Sandalwood, donate it, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 46-41. However, Nanwa wisdom Manjushri shook his head and said, since senior brother has attained the fruit of Nanwa merciful Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva, you are a Bodhisattva of Layin Temple. Perhaps you don't want to rebuild your Buddha body in Layin Temple, but you are still my senior brother. Sigh. Fine. Xiaohua waved his hand and said helplessly, do whatever you want. I won't go to Layin Temple. Anything will do. Go to Layin Temple? Manjushri Bodhisattva was stunned for a moment, then he smiled and said, senior brother, you misunderstood me. That is to listen respectfully in front of Mahavirakana World Venerable. It is a blessing that hundreds of millions of bodhisattvas can't get. Xiaohua did not know whether to laugh or cry. He finally understood why he suddenly attained the fruit of Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva. When he collected the water from Liao River in Longevity Town, he almost attained the fruit. The virtues he obtained were not only the power of faith from the people in Longevity Town, but also the virtues of spreading good seeds across Xiaoyu continent. Later on, Buddha Subhuti appeared out of nowhere. Buddha Subhuti was Xiaohua's Buddhist avatar. Therefore, all the merits fell on Buddha Subhuti. When Xiaohua entered the ruins by mistake and obtained Nanwa Maithreya's relics and virtues, he even sacrificed himself for the people in the ruins. His virtues had long surpassed the fruit of Bodhisattva. When Xiaohua and Buddha Bodhi were teleported back to Great Snow Mountain, Jinglu, cut off her long-cherished wish and attained the fruit of Buddha Bodhi. At this time, Buddha Bodhi was still Xiaohua, but Nanwa Maithreya Buddha was different from Xiaohua. When Wen Chu became a human being, Demon Lord became a demon, and Reverend Yun became a dragon, Nanwa Maithreya Buddha had also changed. Xiaohua did not know whether he had become a human being or not, but he knew that Nanwa Maithreya Buddha had returned the virtues that belonged to Xiaohua's original body. Therefore, when he was in Longevity Town, Xiaohua accidentally and inevitably attained the fruit of Nanwa merciful Avalokitesvara Bodhisattva in front of Liao River, which had not attained the fruit of Buddha over 400 years ago. Of course, the fruit of Buddha was a touch of light on the golden body of Bodhisattva, but on Xiaohua's body, it was just some light on the Godhead. Light. Let's talk about this later. Xiaohua looked at the serious Manjushri Bodhisattva and replied, previously, because of Jinkong's matter, Xiao. Brother Zhao's tone was a bit unkind. I hope junior brother can understand. Hearing Xiaohua calling himself brother and calling himself junior brother, Manjushri was overjoyed. He hurriedly put his palms together and said, Amitba, this is the fault of Layin Temple. When I saw Ananda's incarnation appear, I was also shocked and didn't know what to do. As for the truth and falsehood that this little monk spoke of back then, it was actually the truth. It's just that Jinkong didn't quite understand. After that, Ananda was ruthless. The revered one was also implicated in this matter. It's good that senior martial brother didn't go to the Layin Temple. Speaking of Mahavirakana revered Buddha, Xiaohua sneered, Namo Maithreya Buddha betrayed Layin Temple. Is it related to this matter? This. Manjushri hesitated and said in a low voice, this matter is related to the three Buddhas. I dare not say anything. Now, senior brother is also a bodhisattva. Sometimes, you have to think for Layin Temple. What if I think for small exquisite temple? Xiaohua said with a faint smile. Sigh. Manjushri suddenly thought of something. After a while, he said sincerely, Namo Maithreya Buddha, senior martial brother, Layin Temple and small exquisite temple are one. Senior martial brother can help either one. Also. Xiaohua's heart moved. He asked again, what's the matter with Ananda? Dipankara archaic Buddha didn't say too much. Senior martial brother, don't make things difficult for this little monk. Manjushri said with a bitter face, this is the matter of the Buddhas. How would this little monk know? The most important thing now is to see how to break the restriction. This restriction is really mysterious. If my heaven's foot connection can't work, the other disciples can't either. We have to see senior martial brother's method. Seeing Manjushri like this, Xiaohua didn't force him. He stood still in the air and activated his illusion-breaking Dharma Eye. However, in his Dharma Eye, the western horizon was covered by a layer of white clouds. The clouds covered the entire sky, and the end couldn't be seen. What kind of formation is this? Xiaohua thought and looked at the sky. After all, the places where different clouds touched were usually the weak points of the formation. If he wanted to break the restriction, he could only start from there. Unfortunately, Xiaohua was destined to be disappointed. This was because the area where the white clouds came into contact with the relic scattered light was also a layer of clouds. The layers of clouds were still overlapping each other without any gaps, and there was no flaw to be seen. This is troublesome. Xiaohua stood in the air with a worried expression on his face. He still wanted to use his own divine ability to threaten immortal Emperor Go-Chen, but seeing that this grand formation was so tight that not even the slightest gap could be found, and even he was trapped here, how could he threaten immortal Emperor Go-Chen? Senior martial brother. Seeing that Xiaohua didn't speak, Manjushri asked tentatively, this restriction. Junior martial brother, you should go and ask the Dipankara archaic Buddha. Xiaohua waved his hand angrily, senior martial brother's talent is shallow. I have just touched the threshold of the Thunder Sound Temple, and I have never seen such a mysterious restriction before. Manjushri was helpless and could only order the Buddhas to guard the west side while he flew back to the River Tide Temple. Xiaohua pondered for a moment and shook the Kunlun mirror, mobilizing 40,000 Fortune Gate disciples. 20,000 guarded the north side of the Longevity Town, and 20,000 guarded the south side of the Longevity Town to prevent any changes to the mysterious formation. Then, Xiaohua turned to look at Wen Chu and the Heavenly Man, and asked in a low voice, I've seen it again. What do you think? It's difficult. Wen Chu shook his head, and the Heavenly Man shrugged, expressing his helplessness. However, just as Xiaohua was about to speak, Wen Chu's eyes suddenly lit up, and he said with a smile, this old man remembers 2 of your abilities. It should be useful. Since Wen Chu thought of it, Xiaohua naturally thought of it too. He smiled bitterly and said, one is to forcefully activate the lightning escape art. Although Fengwu has already tried it, he didn't go to the Star Moon Palace, so he doesn't know the profoundness of the lightning escape art. However, don't forget, when the lightning escape art is pushed to the extreme, the last bit of the clear feather pill's medicinal efficacy will be activated. I might ascend to the heavens. Huh, so fellow Daoist wants to ascend? That's a good idea. Under the laws of heaven and earth, all restrictive arrays will lose their effectiveness. We can naturally leave. The Heavenly Man laughed. Currently, I don't want to ascend to the heavens. Xiaohua rubbed his nose and replied, moreover, why would I do these things that harm myself for no reason and let old man Gaochen and old man Hongmeng benefit for nothing? Then we can only rely on. As he spoke, Wen Chu looked at Xiaohua's left hand. That's even more unacceptable. Xiaohua shook his head without hesitation. Although the Daoist sect has a rift with the Confucian sect and the Buddhist sect, we are still humans. This is a righteous cause. Once the devil blade appears, or the demon venerable murder appears, we will become demons. The Confucian sect is the best at spreading rumors. All our previous efforts will turn into water, and we can only benefit old man Hongmeng. Wen Chu pondered for a moment and nodded. If that's the case, we can only wait and see. This formation is really strange. Our divine abilities are not affected by the formation at all. Even our divine sense and eye-clearing techniques are not hindered. However, it only prevents us from leaving. This means... Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and looked at the floating clouds in the sky. He said, the person who set up the formation has absolute confidence in trapping us to death. And they haven't revealed their powerful methods yet. As Xiao Hua spoke, he was unwilling to give up. He rushed into the sky and entered the ground. He looked around again, but he still didn't find anything. Only then did he bring Wen Chu, the heavenly man, and the golden-winged Great Peng, Feng Wu, and the others back to the River Tide Temple. Originally, there were many monks in the River Tide Temple. In order to welcome Chuanzang's group and hold a grand ceremony to end the sutra seeking of nirvana, these monks had gathered around the temple. After Xiao Hua and the primordial chaos ancestor came uninvited, these monks received the abbot's orders and gradually retreated. Now, seeing the strange situation around the Longevity Town, these monks came out from the River Tide Temple and went to various parts of the Longevity Town. They were either comforting the citizens or looking for flaws in the formation. The Dipankara archaic Buddha originally invited immortal Emperor Gaochen to the River Tide Temple for a chat. However, how could immortal Emperor Gaochen step foot into a Buddhist temple? He landed on top of the River Tide Temple, and golden radiances appeared out of nowhere, forming the shape of a golden throne. Immortal Emperor Gaochen sat on top of the clouds. Naturally, the Dipankara archaic Buddha sat on top of the 9 grades lotus throne, facing immortal Emperor Gaochen. Now that the situation had changed, the two of them flew up and sat back down when they saw their disciples flying out. They exchanged a glance, then turned to look at the Jianghu Ridge. On the ridge, the sky-bearing palace's Grand Mist ancestor, Daoist rider Crane, and Nyezi were sitting cross-legged. The three of them seemed to be meditating and turned a blind eye to the two of them. The Gochen Immortal Emperor and the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord glanced at the three before retracting their gazes. They knew very well that the so-called sky-bearing hall was nothing but a nobody. Only the primordial mist ancestor was worthy of their attention. The primordial chaos ancestor and the other two came here with great risk. The primordial chaos ancestor was betting that Xiao Hua didn't know about Prince Lan's matter and that Xiao Hua wouldn't lay his hands on Taoism's cultivators. That was why he only came out after Xiao Hua appeared. They wanted to take advantage of Xiao Hua's Fortune Gates confrontation with the Immortal Palace, Thunder Monastery, and Great Sage Hall to show off their prowess. This kind of trickery was different from Xiao Hua's method of advancing step by step. It was merely a method, and not strength. Therefore, the two of them were certain that the strange changes around the Longevity Town were not the Grand Mist ancestors' doing. Give it a recommendation vote, bookmark it, tip it, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 46-42. Not long after, Sun Jian and Tai Bai Jinxing returned. They didn't hide anything and told the Dipankara archaic Buddha about the Longevity Town situation, as well as the myriad golden lotus blossoms that Xiao Hua saw with his delirium dharma eye. Hearing that Xiao Hua could see through the void, the Grand Mist ancestor's body trembled slightly, and he couldn't help opening his eyes. Daoist rider Crane and Nyezi also opened their eyes. The three of them exchanged a glance, and the complicated expression in their eyes became even more complicated. Manjushri Bodhisattva came back and told him about the situation in the west. Immortal Emperor Gaochen seemed to have thought of something and was surprised to hear that there were only white clouds in the west. The Thunderbolt Immortal wasn't with Hong Meng ancestor and the others. Instead, he was sitting cross-legged on the Liao River opposite the Jianghu Ridge. His gaze was sharp as lightning as he looked at the people on the Jianghu Ridge. After listening to Sun Jian and Manjushri's words, he subconsciously looked down at the Liao River below him. He waved his hand and a streak of lightning turned into a fish and swam down the river. Unfortunately, it was only a short moment before the lightning was obstructed in the distance and couldn't float away in the slightest. Looking at the river water again, although it was still flowing slowly, the torrential momentum was long gone. Whether it was the river water or the fish, when they reached the place where the lightning was obstructed, they all stopped and slowly flowed back. Damn it, natural elemental energy. Seeing how the water flow was acting, Reverend Thunderbolt immediately thought of the natural elemental energy. He hastily released his divine sense to check the surroundings. Thankfully, the natural elemental energy within a radius of 500 li was still abundant. It was not obstructed by the restrictive array. When Thunderbolt Sage was inspecting, Xiao Hua and the rest had already returned. He looked at immortal Emperor Gaochen and the rest before sitting cross-legged in the sky to the south of the tidal river temple. Celestial being and Wen Chu naturally sat beside him. The golden-winged rock and Feng Wu sat on the north side. The golden-winged great rock's gaze was like lightning. He looked at everyone and explained the situation of the Sarira lights in the north. Then, he stared at the Dipankara archaic Buddha and coldly said, "Old man Dipankara, what else do you have to say? Apart from your Buddhist sect's Buddhist artifacts, which other item has Sarira light? How could it be so powerful? You must have fallen into the trap of the Mahavairakana revered Buddha, right?" Amitba. The Dipankara archaic Buddha pressed his palms together and said, "How can the likes of you understand the intentions of the world lord? Although the world is big, it can't compare to even 1% of the Venerable One's mercy." Master Xiao Lei. Immortal Emperor Gochen calmly asked, "Where is the southwest of Longevity Town?" Immortal Emperor Gaochen lowered his head again after hearing Xiao Hua's explanation of the southern flaming clouds and his failure. The Grand Mist Ancestor pondered for a moment, then said, "I have some doubts after hearing Dao Master Zhao's words, but I don't know if they are true or false. I hope Dao Master Xiao can correct me. Please speak, fellow Daoist primordial chaos." Hearing the Grand Mist Ancestor's rare humility, Xiao Hua was a little surprised. He looked at the Grand Mist Ancestor from head to toe and chuckled. The Grand Mist Ancestor coughed and said, "First, I feel that this is a premeditated ambush, and it has been planned for a long time." Nonsense. The Lightning Daoist did not give face to the Grand Mist Ancestor and said coldly, "Everyone knows this. Do I need you to tell me that?" "Hee, fellow Daoist Thunder, don't worry." The Grand Mist Ancestor smiled faintly and said, "What I mean is, since this is something that has been planned for a long time, then this ambush has a purpose. This purpose is definitely the few forces that will participate in the sutra seeking extreme bliss. My sky-bearing palace and fortune gate. Coming to Longevity Town is definitely not something they would expect. Their target should be the Great Sage Hall, Immortal Palace, or Lightning Tune Temple." The Lightning Daoist snorted and said, "Is there even a need to say this?" The Grand Mist Ancestor ignored the Lightning Daoist and said, "How many forces on the 3 continents can contend against the Great Sage Hall, Immortal Palace, and Lightning Tune Temple? Dragon Island? Fortune Gate? Sky-bearing Palace?" The Lightning Daoist was about to scold the Grand Mist Ancestor for being shameless, but Xiao Hua stopped him in his heart. The Grand Mist Ancestor continued, "Since Dao Master Xiao and I are here, the Fortune Gate and Sky-bearing Palace should be eliminated. Then there is only the Dragon Island. Damn it." Zhenfeng shouted angrily from afar, "Grand Mist Ancestor, are you trying to slander us because our dragon race isn't here? I am the Eastern Sea Dragon Palace's 10th Prince Ah. Now, I am the 8th Division Heavenly Dragon. If you continue to spout nonsense, don't blame me for being impolite. If it's the Dragon Island, then who is the Dragon Island's target? How could the Grand Mist Ancestor care about Zhenfeng?" He continued to analyze, "Then it can only be the Great Sage Hall. Of course, if the other great sages of the Great Sage Hall are dissatisfied with the Great Sage Peng and Great Sage Hall, they will probably take action. However, I feel that if they want to deal with the Great Sage Hall, they should not target the Longevity Hall, but the road from the Great Sage Hall to the Longevity Town. There is no need for the Dragon Island to involve the Immortal Palace and Lightning Tune Temple." Then what does fellow Grand Mist Ancestor mean? After talking for so long, why can't I hear anything? Xiao Hua asked. "I am only reminding you that there is a purpose to this ambush. Other than the 3 continent superpowers, what else is there? Are there other hidden forces?" The Grand Mist Ancestor hinted. Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat as he seemed to understand the Grand Mist Ancestor's meaning. The corner of his mouth curled up into a cold sneer as he asked in a low voice, "Grand Mist Ancestor, can you say it clearly?" Xingyue. The Grand Mist Ancestor looked provocatively at Xiao Hua as he said each word clearly. "You deserve to die." Xiao Hua's heart was burning with anger. Thinking about how Su Ji had treated him well in the Star Moon Palace, then thinking about how Su Ji had blocked him, not allowing him to make things difficult for the Grand Mist Ancestor, then thinking about what Su Ji had not said. What he had done for the Grand Mist Ancestor in the past. Xiao Hua jumped up from the cloud and said loudly, "Since Daoist Grand Mist has said this, then this Xiao has no choice but to say it. Xingyue has belonged to my fortune gate ever since the Xingyue Palace appeared. Whoever dares to have any ideas about Xingyue, don't blame my fortune gate for being impolite." Ah! Everyone was stunned, and the Grand Mist Ancestor was even more shocked. He hurriedly said, fellow Daoist Xiao, congratulations, congratulations, this seat has been rude. This seat was just discussing the matter as it is, but I didn't expect that the flood would rush to the Dragon King's temple, and we don't recognize each other anymore. It seems like this seat's deduction was wrong. At this point, the Grand Mist Ancestor asked curiously, "That's right, fellow Daoist Xiao, this seat is a little presumptuous to ask, where is the original owner of Xingyue?" Xiao Hua replied snappily, "Fellow Daoist need not worry about that. Their whereabouts have nothing to do with you." That's good, that's good. Although Xiao Hua did not answer directly, the Grand Mist Ancestor seemed to be relieved and smiled exceptionally brightly. "Damn it, do you have anything else to say?" The celestial being was also annoyed by the Grand Mist Ancestor's words and shouted loudly. Of course. The Grand Mist Ancestor's purpose was naturally to find out the whereabouts of Fairy Xingyue and Su Ji. Secondly, it was the ownership of the star-plucking tower. In order to avoid suspicion, how could he not have other methods? He agreed and said, "Since Xingyue is not the owner, then it should be the other hidden forces in the 3 continents. Among these forces, the most famous one is also the most likely." There is no need for this seat to say more. Immortal Emperor Gochen must know. Immortal Emperor Gochen snorted coldly and did not say anything else. The Grand Mist Ancestor continued, "Other than some clues from the purpose, there are also some clues from the method used to set up the formation. This seat has not seen this formation before, but from the strange phenomenon that Daoist Xiao saw with my Dao Gate's divine ability, this formation should be divided into 4 different great formations according to the 4 directions of heaven and earth. Each great formation should have an array disc or array flag. In this world, to be able to set up 4 great formations of the same power at the same time, I'm afraid that only the 4 great clans of the hidden immortal continent can do so. Didn't the 4 great clans just get beaten to a pulp by the fortune gate at the Day and Day Cliff?" The golden-winged Great Peng frowned and said, "How could they have the strength to set up formations here?" Xiao Hua smiled bitterly and said, "You may not know, Sage Peng, but the 4 great clans gathered 900,000 disciples to confront my fortune gate at the Day and Day Cliff. My fortune gate killed more than 300,000 of them and captured more than 500,000 of them. It is not good for me to kill these 500,000 disciples, but it is also not good for me to keep them alive. In the end, I simply let them go." Soft-hearted. The golden-winged Great Peng didn't seem to regard Xiao Hua as an outsider. He blamed Xiao Hua and said, "If you had killed all of them back then, how could today's disaster have happened?" Amitabha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha, who had been silent all this while, stood up and clasped his palms together. "Namo Great Compassionate Great Guanyin Bodhisattva, previously, this seat had been brooding over your attainment of karma. From the looks of it now, you truly deserved it. This seat apologizes to you." Amitabha. Xiao Hua could only stand up and clasp his palms together in a familiar manner. "Dipankara archaic Buddha, seat of the world, you are too serious. It doesn't matter if I have attained karma or not, as long as I am merciful in my heart. If I wasn't forced into a corner, I wouldn't even be willing to kill those 300,000 disciples." Xiao Hua's words were naturally directed at the Gochen Immortal Emperor. He didn't know if the Dipankara archaic Buddha was aware of this. However, he still said, "We Buddhists emphasize on being merciful. However, we Buddhists still have thunderous methods to subdue devils. For the sake of Buddhism's peace, we have no choice but to stain ourselves with blood." After the Dipankara archaic Buddha sat down, the golden-winged Great Peng suddenly realized something and shouted, "Oh, Dragon Master Xiao, this sage suddenly realized that you are not only the dragon master of the Dragon Island, but also the thunder master of the Immortal Palace. Now, you are even the Namo Great Compassionate Great Guanyin Bodhisattva. Oh, you are also good friends with my rock sage. The Star Moon Lord again. Oh my. You. Aren't you the number one person of the 3 continents? Don't forget, Thunder Master Shao is also good friends with my Immortal Palace's Literature Palace Lord. The Gochin Immortal Emperor said with a faint tone, from what I know, when the Namo Maitreya Buddha attained karma, he also witnessed it on the Great Snow Mountain. Thank you for all your support. Chapter 46-43. At this moment, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord also spoke. Since he's the Namo Great Merciful Vidyalaya Bodhisattva, he must have the world in his heart. I support such a person becoming the number one expert of the 3 continents. The Mahavirakana World Lord also supports him. My sky-bearing palace also supports him. The primordial chaos ancestor hurriedly yelled. Xiaohua waved his hand. Everyone, you're wrong. Let's discuss how to break the restriction first. If it's really the setup of the 4 great families, this restriction is no small matter. I've studied the Tao of formations of Taoism in the past. The primordial chaos ancestor smiled. If you want to break the formation, you must first know what kind of formation it is, what are the formation plates and flags used to set it up, and where is the formation core. Only when you have a clear understanding of the formation can you truly break it. According to Daoist primordial chaos, what kind of formation is this? What are the formation plates used to set it up? And where is the core of the formation? Xiaohua asked with a smile when they talked about the formation. The primordial chaos ancestor felt a little guilty and chuckled. This must be the defensive formation of the Confucian cultivators. That's not something I can know. Damn it. The heavenly being shouted, after listening for so long, you're still spouting nonsense. Sigh, does your disciple know what kind of nonsense you're spouting every day? Damn it. The primordial chaos ancestor was a little embarrassed. He glanced at the heavenly being and cursed inwardly. There was a moment of silence on the Jianghu temple. Suddenly, a whirling breeze descended from the sky. Everyone looked up and saw that in the blue sky, the sun was high up in the sky. There seemed to be a circle of light that was visible to the naked eye, slowly sliding down. Xiaohua was shocked. He hurriedly used his divine sense to scan the area, but nothing happened. Not even a spatial ripple appeared, let alone any fluctuations. However, this halo of light was like a heavy boulder in everyone's heart. No one knew what this light thread was used for. This kind of mystery was more frightening than any other method. Your Majesty. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord retracted his gaze and looked at Immortal Emperor Go Chen. These 4 defensive formations. Have you seen them before? I haven't seen them before. Immortal Emperor Go Chen calmly replied, moreover, I feel that these 4 formations are not the defensive formations of Confucian cultivators. Xiaohua sneered, if it's not a defensive array, could it be my Tao sect's array? Could it be the Buddhism formation of the Buddhism sect? The golden-winged great rock looked at the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord and probed. The Grand Mist Ancestor rubbed his chin thoughtfully. It could also be the demonic beast race's demonic array. Amitba, there's no need to guess anymore. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha, the World Exalt, said, I don't know what kind of formation this is. However, I seem to have some impression of the scattered Sarira lights mentioned by the Guanyin Bodhisattva. Oh. Revered one of the world, please speak. Xiaohua hastily asked. Unfortunately, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha did not answer him directly. Instead, he looked at the Immortal Emperor Go Chen and asked, Did you not notice anything, Your Majesty? Immortal Emperor Gao Chen smiled. Of course I know what I see. I'm sure you know what you see as well, right? Amitba. Seeing how the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Lord refused to speak, he could only say, Since Your Majesty doesn't want to say, I'll just have to embarrass myself. According to my Thunder Monastery's records, before the Immortals and Buddhas joined forces to destroy the Tao, 5 flags appeared on the 3 great continents. They were known as the earlier Heaven Five Elements flags. According to legend, these five elements flags were formed from the five petals of the chaotic green lotus. They are all supreme-grade early heaven treasures. The Eastern treasured flag is known as the green lotus flag. It can calm one's heart, repel all evils, and be invulnerable to all arts. The Eastern treasured flag emits the scattered Sarira lights. These scattered Sarira lights are similar to my Buddhism sect's scattered Sarira lights, yet there are some differences. I don't know what the differences are, because I've never seen this green lotus flag before. If the Guanyin Bodhisattva didn't mention the scattered Sarira lights, I wouldn't have remembered this story. SSS. Hearing the Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord mention the five elements flags, Xiaohua instantly thought of the mystic origin water control flag he had obtained in the profound water palace. He couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air as he thought, that day in the profound water palace, Xian revealed the origin of the mystic origin water control flag. She said that it came from the immortal world and was used to suppress the devil's saber murder in the profound water palace. The immortal world she mentioned must be the heavenly court. I've only seen the might of the mystic origin water control flag and don't fully understand it. However, I'm well aware of how powerful the devil's saber murder is. That's a devilish saber that even the devil lords of the ruins feared. Yet, it was suppressed by the mystic origin water control flag. If this mystic origin water control flag is one of the five elements flags, then the other four five elements flags that form these four formations aren't something I can deal with. Even if I summon my devilish saber, I won't be able to do anything. Thinking of this, Xiaohua hurriedly asked, World Lord, the other four five elements flags. What are their names? What's so powerful about them? Amitabha. The cultivation of Buddhism isn't about Buddhism formations, but about the heart. If it weren't for the Sarira lights on the green lotus flag, I wouldn't have known about it. Therefore, I don't know about the other four five elements flags. The Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord didn't know if he really didn't know or if he was faking it. He only pushed this question to immortal Emperor Go-Chen. I'm afraid I can only ask your majesty about this. Humph. Xiaohua snorted and looked at immortal Emperor Go-Chen. Even Xian knew about the origin of the mystic origin water control flag. How could immortal Emperor Go-Chen not know about it? Unfortunately, immortal Emperor Go-Chen still shook his head. Why must I know if the earlier Heaven Five Elements flags don't belong to my immortal palace? What? Your Majesty doesn't know about it if it doesn't belong to the immortal palace? Xiaohua narrowed his eyes and asked calmly. Oh, if that's the case, this sage finally remembered. The golden-winged great rock suddenly cried out. The Great Sage Hall has records of something called the Khanate Pentagonal Formation. This formation is neither a Dharma formation nor a demonic formation, much less an imperial formation or a Buddhist formation. The pentagonal formation is set up by five Khanate flags. These five flags possess boundless power and are used to protect one's body. All evil will be repelled, and all magic will be impenetrable. Let this sage think. The central flag is called the Yellow Earth Apricot Flag? Yes, it's called the Yellow Earth Apricot Flag. When this Yellow Earth Apricot Flag is activated, nothing can break through it. All evils will be repelled, and no arts will be able to invade it. Yes, it seems to be called the 10,000 Golden Lotuses. It's very similar to what Longsher Xiao saw in the east of Longevity Town. What about the others? Xiaohua asked. The golden-winged great rock shrugged and shook his head. This sage can't remember the others. This sage only took a casual glance. But then, the golden-winged great rock looked at immortal Emperor Go-Chen and said, Go-Chen, it is said that the earlier Heaven Five Elements flag was obtained by a Confucian sage. Later on, it was controlled by the human race and eventually lost to the hidden immortal continent. Could it be that you don't know about it? Humph. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen coldly snorted and said, My Confucian sage has many sages. I don't know who Sage Peng is talking about. Moreover, my immortal palace has never had any records about this. However, if you are talking about the earlier Heaven Five Elements flag, this emperor doesn't know everything. I only know that the southern flag is called the floating flame flag. This flag confuses yin and yang, reverses the 5 elements, repels all evils, and is impenetrable by all arts. When it is activated, the flames are like clouds and can conceal the 5 elements. The western flag is called the white cloud boundary flag. This flag has a dense and mysterious image that illuminates the heaven and earth, repels all evils, and is impenetrable by all arts. When it is activated, the clouds float and the heaven and earth change colors. As for the northern flag, this emperor doesn't know. Damn it, you are still being secretive even at this time. Xiao Hua was very disdainful of Go Chen's character and secretly cursed. However, he wasn't sure if the mystic origin water control flag was the northern flag, so he couldn't say anything. Wen Chu frowned and said, "If it is as you all said, then this immortal town is surrounded by the 5 elements grand formation. However, this 5 elements grand formation is missing the northern flag, so it can't be considered complete. We should have a chance. Immortal friend Wen Chu is looking down on this 5 elements grand formation too much." The golden-winged Great Peng shook his head and said, "You should know that this 5 elements grand formation is called the innate 5 elements grand formation. Not to mention the 5 innate 5 elements flags acting as the eye of the formation, no one in the 3 continents can break it. Just the innate 5 elements flag alone is not a match for immortal friend." At this time, Wen Chu glanced at Xiao Hua. Xiao Hua had already told him about the mystic origin water control flag. After hearing this, Wen Chu's expression unconsciously changed. After all, he was very clear about the power of the devil's saber murder. If that's the case, then this formation without the northern flag should be called the innate 4 elements grand formation. Immortal Emperor Gaochen said, "At this time, I don't need to say anything more. Everyone should know who is scheming against us, right?" "Gaochen." The golden-winged Great Peng shrieked, "Is there still a need to say it? The innate 4 elements grand formation is spread out in all directions and sealed off the immortal town. Apart from the 4 great clans, who else could it be? However, the one they are scheming against is probably you, right?" Immortal Emperor Gaochen laughed and said, "Is there a difference? Could it be that Sage Peng is not inside the formation? This sage is naturally inside the formation. However, even if we are both inside the formation, we are different, right?" The golden-winged Great Peng replied without hesitation, "The 4 great clans are coveting the immortal palace's throne. This innate 5 elements grand formation is known as the number 1 defensive formation in the world. It is even more powerful than Daoist Zhao's capital star formation. The 4 great clans have trapped you here, so they must have already killed their way to the immortal palace. Damn it." Immortal Emperor Gaochen cursed inwardly when his thoughts were exposed by the golden-winged Great Peng. He then looked at Xiao Hua and said, "Master Xiao Hua, you should be more vigilant now. Previously, you fought against the 4 great clans at Chaomuya. This time, you are trapped in the immortal town. Who knows, the Nangong family might attack your soaring Dragon Mountain range first." Hearing Immortal Emperor Gaochen mention Chaomuya again, Xiao Hua's anger surged. He sneered coldly, "Old man Gaochen, Sage Peng is not afraid of the 4 great clans attacking the Great Holy Hall. Do you think this Xiao is afraid of the Nangong family surrounding my fortune gate? This Xiao will put my words here. If Nangong Tianji dares to go, this Xiao can guarantee that he won't be able to keep his head. As for your majesty, shouldn't you tell this Xiao where the New Heavens punishment prison crystal is being kept? Otherwise, this Xiao will make a move before the innate 4 elements grand formation, gift it, and thank you for all your support." Chapter 46-44. Motherfucker, speak. At this time, the Celestial also shouted arrogantly, "Otherwise, I will pull you down from the throne." The rock chuckled and added, "Gaochen, I saw that you were scheming before, but you're still a lord of a region. You're still broad-minded. That's why I'll accept any invitations you have unless it's something special. But now, it seems that everything you've done doesn't match your status as the Lord of Immortal Palace. Daoist Xiao is a human grand ascension stage, a dragon among men. He's so broad-minded that even I want to befriend him. Why don't you like him?" The 9th princess was wrong earlier, but Daoist Xiao gave you enough face in the battle against Chao Muya. If you still don't give him face, then don't blame me for not giving you any face. Hee, how can taking advantage of a burning house be a gentleman's style? Immortal Emperor Gaochen didn't care about the rock's threat and said flatly, Sacred Peng, do you think I'm afraid of these idiots? Moreover, I also believe that Master Xiao Lei's words were just words of anger. He will definitely consider the big picture and help the master of the School of Literature to break the Four Directions formation. Because if something happens to me, then no one will know about it. Xiao Hua looked at Immortal Emperor Go Chen's face that was covered by the light. He also couldn't see Immortal Emperor Go Chen's expression, but Xiao Hua knew that under the light. It was definitely a complacent expression. Immortal Emperor Go Chen was the only person who knew the whereabouts of the Heaven Punishment Prison Crystal. Unless he decided to break off relations with the Immortal Palace and search every inch of the hidden Immortal Continent, he really couldn't casually make a move. Xiao Hua took a deep breath and said coldly, Your Majesty controls the fate of all Confucian cultivators in the world. How can you not have a way to destroy the schemes of the 4 clans? Oh, and where's your golden throne? All Confucian cultivators in the world will bow before the throne. Your Majesty, you should act quickly. If I could bring the throne down from Immortal Palace, would Dongfang Qianghao and the others still dare to set up this formation in Immortal Town? Immortal Emperor Gaochen sneered. They only dare to use their brains when I leave Immortal Palace. His Majesty doesn't have a golden throne, but he still has the Emperor's sword. Xiao Hua's gaze fell on the Emperor's sword in front of Immortal Emperor Go Chen and said, If the Emperor's sword doesn't come out, who would dare to use their techniques? The meaning of Xiao Hua's words was very clear. Even if others wanted to break the seal now, they had to stop and wait for Immortal Emperor Go Chen's Son of Heaven's sword to attack before they dared to try. Humph. Immortal Emperor Go Chen scowled. He knew that the 4 clans were targeting him, so how could he not use his strongest move? However, his plan to use Xiao Hua had failed. Instead, he had been forced here by Xiao Hua. It seemed that he had no choice but to take action. This made him feel very unhappy. Humph, a lazy donkey has a lot of shit and pee on it. Xiao Hua also coldly snorted and secretly criticized in his heart, At this time, you still want others to help you. You've really gone crazy from scheming all day long. If I were Dongfang Qianghao, I'm afraid I would also flip this guy over. Immortal Emperor Go Chen's body flew up and turned into 1,000 feet tall. He used his golden pupils and scanned the sky. Then, he raised the Emperor's sword. Buzz. With a clear hum, the space within 1,000 miles of Immortal Town began to tremble. Then, pillars of righteous energy appeared in the void. Unfortunately, these pillars of righteous energy only appeared for a moment before disappearing. The void inside the formation was blocked, so the Emperor's sword could only channel a small amount of righteous energy. Boom. Seeing that the righteous energy was no longer there, Immortal Emperor Go Chen's body swayed. The sun and moon above his emperor's armor shined brightly. The dragon that represented the providence of Confucian cultivators stepped on the 5-colored clouds around Immortal Emperor Go Chen and roared as it rushed into the Emperor's sword. Whoosh! A light shadow and righteous energy gushed out from the Emperor's sword. Amidst the cries of dragons and phoenixes, mountains and rivers, cities and countries, men plowing and women weaving, the myriad phenomena of the mortal world, and even the mountains and seas of books were all reflected in this warm sword light. This sword light seemed to be surging with a myriad of sword intents. It was an invincible royal aura that controlled the world. It fell towards the intersection of the golden lotus clouds and the Sarira's light. Boom! Under the Emperor's sword, amidst the explosions, the clear eyes art, the 10,000 golden lotuses, and the Sarira's light that were invisible to the naked eye and divine sense were revealed. Outside of Xiao Hua's expectations, no matter if it was the golden lotuses or the Sarira, under the Emperor's sword intent and sword light, there were no special changes. The boundless images fell into the clouds in the Sarira's light, like a clay ox entering the sea, and disappeared without a trace. The Emperor's sword's body slashed into the gap between the clouds and the Sarira's light, but it also seemed to have fallen into a quagmire. It gradually slowed down, and in the end, it was actually suspended in the air. All kinds of strange images slightly trembled and then went back into the emperor's sword. Hiss. Sun Jian, on the side, took a deep breath and said, even the emperor's sword couldn't do anything. Who in this world can break this innate four cardinal formation? Previously, there was still a grand qi flowing. Now, the four cardinal formation seems to have been activated, and the grand qi pillar within the void has also been isolated. Xiaohua said calmly, if I'm not mistaken, the heaven and earth essence qi of our Taoism will also be isolated. Our powers will be greatly reduced. Amitabha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha chanted and flew out. The bitter expression on his face became heavier, and he said, let me try. World Lord, your disciples are here to help. Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva didn't dare to delay and quickly flew out as well. He stood behind the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord, and the other Buddhist protectors and arhats also flew out and stood behind the Manjushri Bodhisattva. Amitabha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord chanted again. His voice was filled with helplessness, desolation, fading away, and even death. The radiance behind the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord's head shone brightly. Within the radiance, the power of faith flowed like a river. However, just like when the emperor's sword was activated, the power of faith only flowed for a short while before it dried up. It can't be. Sun Jian was dumbfounded. As if he had seen a ghost, he yelled, the earlier heaven four cardinal formation can even stop the power of faith? Looking at Sun Jian's shocked expression, he no longer resembled the knowledgeable true Lord Qingyuan. While Sun Jian was still in shock, the radiance behind the Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva and the other Buddha's heads shone brightly. The radiance was infused with the power of faith, transforming into Buddhist lights that rushed into the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord's radiance. Instantly, within 1,000 miles, Sanskrit chants resounded. Heavenly flowers rained down, and a heavenly maiden and a heavenly dragon appeared. However, just like before, the heavenly maiden and heavenly dragon silhouettes appeared and disappeared immediately after. The heavenly flowers fell to the sky, but soon withered. The Sanskrit chants didn't stop, but they didn't have the same momentum as those on the stage. Namo Dipankara archaic Buddha. The Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord chanted a Buddhist mantra, and a radiant illusory figure emerged from the radiance behind his head, landing within the slabs of light far away. Wherever the radiant illusory figure passed by, darkness would appear. Wisps of radiance would wither into heavenly flowers, and small kiliacosms would be annihilated one after another. The power of death and withering? Xiaohua narrowed his eyes. He had already noticed something amiss from this Buddhist light. Oh, there's even the faint flow of time. I understand now. The Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord not only represents the past, but also represents death. The Maitreya Buddha World Lord not only represents the future, but also represents rebirth. Only when I've comprehended the Tao of life and death, and when Shu has cultivated the Qi of life, can Buddha Bodhi truly attain fruition. As for the Mahavirakana World Lord, not only does he represent the present, but he also represents the boundary between life and death. Shouldn't the Mahavirakana World Lord be in control of life and death? As for the pitiful Buddha Bodhi, he's only a future Buddha Lord. I'm afraid he'll never become a Buddha. While Xiaohua was pondering, the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord's radiant illusory figure had already landed on the slabs of light. Under the radiant illusory figure, thousands of slabs of light flashed, and the radiant illusory figure also disappeared instantly. The space remained the same, and the scenery remained the same. It was even more traceless than a spring dream. While everyone was still in shock, Xiaohua came to a realization. After all, his thunderous palm contained the Tao of life and death. If even the Tao of life and death couldn't do anything, how could the pure power of death and withering be effective? World Lord. Seeing the radiant illusory figure vanish without causing any ripples, Namo Wisdom Manjushri and the others' expressions changed. Just as they were about to speak, the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord chanted, Namo Amitabha. Then, he slowly returned to the sky above the river tide temple, sat down cross-legged, and remained silent. all the Buddhas were dejected. Other than Namo Wisdom Manjushri, who was still standing in mid-air, the others all sat down cross-legged and silently chanted Buddhist scriptures. Sigh, this is the only bad thing about Buddhism. Seeing this, Xiaohua sighed inwardly. He looked at the sun that was about to reach his head, as if he wanted to see something. Currently, there wasn't much wind blowing in the blue sky. Previously, there were still some clouds, but they were all shattered by immortal Emperor Go-Chen's sword. The scattered clouds floated in the air, as if they were cotton. Suddenly, as if he had thought of something, Xiaohua's expression changed drastically. He flew into mid-air and scanned the area with his divine sense. Then, he opened his illusion-breaking eye and shouted, "Everyone, the area within 1,000 miles of the Longevity Town has been completely sealed. Not only is the noble qi and the worldly essence unable to flow, even the air that mortals breathe has been sealed. We don't need to breathe to survive. From now on, we don't need to breathe anymore." After speaking, Xiaohua didn't wait for anyone's response. His figure flickered, and he landed at the edge of the Longevity Town. Then, he carefully scanned the area with his divine sense. Give it a recommendation vote, collect it, or tip it. Thank you for all your support. Chapter 46-45. 200 years later, the Longevity Town was no longer the same as when Xiaohua had left. Not only was the town a few times larger, but the surrounding population had also increased by more than 10 times. Moreover, due to the sutra seeking extreme bliss, the Longevity Town only had the tidal river temple and other businesses related to Buddhism. The population that was more than 10 times larger were all gathered outside the Longevity Town. When Xiaohua had left, the desolate roads and mountain ranges were now bustling with activity. Many villages and markets had appeared. In fact, if it weren't for the restrictions of Buddhism and Confucianism, the Longevity Town would have become a county long ago. The Xiantian Four Cardinal Grand Formation sealed off the Longevity Town within 1,000 miles. Naturally, it also trapped these mortals within the formation. Without air, Xiaohua and the other cultivators could survive. However, these mortals couldn't. Xiaohua had to either break the Four Cardinal Grand Formation or take these mortals into the Shenhua continent. However, Xiaohua was a little hesitant to take these mortals in front of the Dipankara archaic Buddha and immortal Emperor Go-Chen. He was afraid that these two exalted experts would see through his secret. Especially immortal Emperor Go-Chen. That guy had the clear heavenly mirror. Fortunately, the Xiantian Four Cardinal Grand Formation had just been activated. There was still plenty of air within the formation. Xiaohua's divine sense swept through the area. The mortals around the Longevity Town were still living blissfully and didn't realize that death was approaching. Ignorance. How nice. Xiaohua sighed and was about to move again. He already had a plan. In the end, he had to take these mortals into the Kunlun mirror even if he had to risk exposing his secret. Right at this moment, radiant colors flickered high up in the sky. Strands of multicolored lights were formed like raindrops. Then, these multicolored lights transformed into golden lotus clouds, Sarira lights, flaming clouds, and layers of clouds around the Longevity Town. The clouds revealed by the four cardinal flags surged and transformed into Dongfang Qianghao, Shimen Jianzhong, Nangang Tianji, and Baiming Chuqing. These four didn't have secondary bodies and weren't as large as normal secondary bodies. They were only a few dozen feet in size. As the multicolored lights passed by, all colors were restrained. They looked no different from ordinary mortals. Even the expressions on their faces were clear. Traitor. When immortal Emperor Go-Chen saw the four clan masters appear, he immediately scolded them. Why did you all set up the Khanate Four Cardinal Formation to seal the Longevity Town and trap me here? Your Majesty. Dongfang Qianghao and the others didn't glare at him. Instead, they bowed respectfully and said, since the ancient immortals and Buddhas joined forces to destroy the Tao, the military school has made outstanding contributions in battle. Since then, they have taken control of the immortal palace, and we Confucian cultivators have all submitted. However, since His Majesty took over the hidden immortal continent, although he barely made some achievements, it was easy for him to monopolize power. Especially in the last 1,000 years, His Majesty was headstrong and self-opinionated, listened to slander, and favored treacherous rebels. He was muddle-headed and tyrannical, which really hurt the hearts of Confucian cultivators and philosophers. Ever since the militarists took over the immortal palace, the 4 great aristocratic families have been living in seclusion. We don't care about the worldly affairs of the hidden immortal continent and only support the government of the immortal palace. Today, the patriarchs of the 100 schools have written a blood letter to the people, begging us to come out and remove the emperor from his position. We will return the righteousness of Confucian cultivators and restore the stability of Confucian cultivators. We, the 4 great clans, place the foundation of Confucian cultivators as our priority and place the livelihood of the people as our priority. We write the 4 great clans' declaration to exterminate Gaochen to the world so that it can be heard properly. Damn it. Damn it. Damn it. Immortal Emperor Gaochen was furious. He swung the Son of Heaven's sword at the 4 clan masters. Unfortunately, although the sword's light could stabilize mountains and rivers, it had no effect on the 4 figures. Dongfang Xianxia continued, "We recognize that His Majesty has worked hard even if he didn't make any contributions, so we will give His Majesty 10 days to consider. If His Majesty kills Xiaohua and abdicates, we will give His Majesty enough face and also make His Majesty the master of the Tushita Palace. If His Majesty doesn't kill Xiaohua and abdicate at dawn 10 days later, then we will write the 4 great clans' declaration to exterminate Gaochen and attack the immortal palace first, then destroy the fortune gate and cleanse the land of our Confucian cultivators." With that, Dongfang Xianxia raised his hand and took out a piece of paper. He read, "The fake Sun clan of the Lin dynasty is not gentle in nature. Shichong Zi Wei Chen, once a servant in plain clothes. Late in life, he disturbed the immortal palace. Concealed the previous emperor's selfishness, trapping our emperor in a trap. With lizards as the heart, jackals and wolves as the second nature. Close to evil, killing the loyal and good. Killing the elder sister and brother, killing the emperor and killing the mother. Gods and men are jealous, heaven and earth cannot tolerate. Harboring evil intentions, coveting divine artifacts. The emperor's beloved daughter, secluded in another palace. The alliance of thieves, entrusted with heavy responsibilities. Minghu. Hua Zimeng did not do anything, Zhu Suho is dead. Swallow pecks the imperial grandson, knowing that the Han dynasty is coming to an end. Knowing the rapid decline of Xiating. Today's emperor is tainted, his virtue is not reported, and he is guilty of 10 crimes. First, he indulged the Daoist sect, appeased the Hongmeng, left Penglai, and did not destroy the Daoist sect. Second, he observed the rise of creation, did not engage in war, and lived with it. Third, he used the name of a Confucian cultivator to confer the title of the master of the Wuxia Palace. He was even more shameless, using the name of Thunder Master to commit immoral acts. Fourth, he used the Daoist sect's weapon to kill the elites of the Confucian cultivators, disrupting the peace of the 4 aristocratic families. Fifth, for the emperor's lack of virtue, causing chaos in the 9 states, and billions of lives could not be pacified. Sixth, for the emperor's lack of virtue, he indulged the 9th princess in the mortal world, fell in love with the remnants of the Daoist sect, and caused chaos. Seventh, for the emperor's lack of virtue, he neglected the empress, and favored the flower medicine palace. Eighth, for the emperor's lack of virtue, he trusted close officials, causing chaos in the Tianji Hall. Ninth, for the emperor's lack of virtue, he was indecisive. Seeking scriptures in paradise seemed like a grand undertaking, but in reality, he was defeated, extremely shameless. 10th, for the emperor's lack of diligence, he allowed the Buddhist sect to invade and expand the hidden immortals. From then on, the hidden immortals were not the hidden immortals of the Confucian cultivators. The 4 aristocratic families' Confucian cultivators were the old officials, the emperor. He received the emperor's achievements, and the kindness of the emperor's court. Sun Weizi's joy and sorrow were justified. How could Yuan Junshin's tears be in vain? He used anger to calm the world. Because of the world's disappointment, he followed the heart of the universe. He raised the banner of righteousness to clear away the evildoers. The south connected to the 100 Yu, the north to the three rivers, the cavalry in groups, connected to the jade axis. The red millet of the hailing mausoleum, the accumulation of the warehouse is endless, the yellow banner of Jianghu, how far away is the merit of restoring the country? The sound of the court moves, the north wind rises, the sword chi rushes, the south is peaceful. The mountain collapses with a whistle, the wind and clouds change color with a shout. With this to control the enemy, what enemy could not be destroyed? With this, what merit could not be subdued? The emperor's rank was either hiding immortals, or assisting the emperor's relatives, or being heavily entrusted with words, or receiving orders from the emperor. The words are still in the ear, loyalty will not forget the heart. A grain of earth is not dry, how can the 6 feet of solitude be supported? If he can turn the disaster into a blessing, he can send the past to the emperor's residence, and not abolish the emperor's order, he will be rewarded with the same title as the mountains and rivers. If he is attached to a poor city, wandering the wrong path, and ignorant of the signs of the past, he will be punished in the future. Please take a look at today's domain. Whose world is it? Dongfang Qianghao recited the declaration of the 4 great clans against Gaochen, with a sonorous and forceful tone. It was like thunder or war drums. The area within 1,000 miles of Longevity Town was filled with grief and indignation. It was as if Dongfang Qianghao's 10 sins were true. Not to mention the mortals, even Xiaohua secretly nodded after hearing this. This declaration was written very well. Anyone who heard it would feel that immortal Emperor Gaochen was not virtuous. The 4 great clans had no choice but to do this. All of the righteousness fell on the 4 great clans' side. After Dongfang Qianghao finished reciting the declaration, he didn't stop for a moment. His figure immediately disappeared, and the clan masters of the other 3 clans also disappeared. After the 4 great clans were gone, immortal Emperor Gaochen and the others looked at each other with a bit of dismay. It was very clear that the 4 great clans were using the banner of cleaning up the immortal palace to force immortal Emperor Gaochen to abdicate. If it was before, immortal Emperor Gaochen wouldn't hesitate to order his troops to destroy the Fortune Gate in order to protect the immortal palace. However, at this time, the Fortune Gate's wings were fully formed. Not to mention the immortal palace, even the 4 great clans couldn't be seen in Xiaohua's eyes. How could immortal Emperor Gaochen dare to send troops to kill the Fortune Dao Palace? The more immortal Emperor Gaochen destroyed the Dao Palace, the more he would be killed by Xiaohua. In the end, he would still have to abdicate. Especially today, in Longevity Town, if Xiaohua dared to say he was second, no one would dare to say they were first. Who had the qualifications and ability to destroy the Fortune Gate? Because of this, the 4 great clans gave up on the 5 energy origin law and directly targeted Xiaohua and immortal Emperor Gaochen's position. This was a blatant display of their ambition. If it wasn't for Gaochen abdicating and killing Xiaohua, the innate 4 directions grand formation wouldn't have been activated. Immortal Emperor Gaochen was the leader of the immortal palace. After hearing the declaration, he immediately calmed down and sheathed the Son of Heaven's sword at his waist. He didn't even have the intention to discuss with Taibai Jingxing and Sun Jian. He simply returned to the sky above the tidal river temple, thinking about how to kill Xiaohua or how to escape. Seeing immortal Emperor Gaochen's reaction, Sun Jian glanced at Taibai Jingxing. Taibai Jingxing's face was also filled with worry. He glanced at Xiaohua and opened his mouth as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. Damn it. The golden-winged Great Peng laughed and shouted, "You humans are really interesting. If you want to fight, then fight. Why do you need to make a reason?" However, this declaration is really well written. This saint also wants to punch Gaochen a few times after hearing it. Ha ha ha. Xiaohua coldly glanced at the silent Gaochen. There were currently 4 forces within 1,000 li of this space: the Confucian cultivators, the Buddhist sect, the Daoist gate, and the demonic race. If immortal Emperor Gaochen wanted to deal with Xiaohua, he could only join hands with the Buddhist sect or the demonic race, just like how they suppressed the Grand Mist Ancestor. But now, not to mention the Buddhist sect and the demonic race being on good terms with Xiaohua, even the Grand Mist Ancestor dared to appear in front of immortal Emperor Gaochen. How could immortal Emperor Gaochen deal with Xiaohua? If he pointed his sword at Xiaohua, he would only die a more miserable death. Therefore, Xiaohua looked at Gaochen, pondered for a moment, and said, Your Majesty. Give it a recommendation vote, collect it, gift it, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 46-46. What's the matter? Immortal Emperor Go Chen's tone was indifferent and even a bit arrogant. It was as if he wasn't affected by the declaration at all. He didn't even feel the awkwardness and danger of his situation. He simply asked, If you want to capture me and go to the 4 clans to claim credit, then you have made a mistake in your calculations. Xiaohua was furious after hearing this and said, Go Chen, don't think that just because you have the clear heavenly mirror, no one can do anything to you. You have the clear heavenly mirror and a 9th grade immortal palace Wensheng. I also have millions of soldiers in my Kunlun mirror. If I want to capture you, it will be as easy as flipping my hand. Master Shaolei, Master Shaolei. Tai Bai Jinxing hurriedly flew over and bowed. If you have anything to say, please say it. Phew. Xiaohua took a deep breath, but he immediately regretted it. He calmed himself down and pointed below, saying, There are millions of mortals within 1,000 miles of the Longevity Town. They should be the first victims since the Longevity Town has been sealed off by the 4 great clans. Moreover, they are powerless and have no way to resist. Therefore, if possible, Your Majesty, please use the clear heavenly mirror at the right time to capture these mortals. Who told you that my clear heavenly mirror can capture mortals? Immortal Emperor Gochen said coldly, My clear heavenly mirror is the imperial artifact of the hidden immortal continent. Humph. Xiaohua knew that he wouldn't reveal the secret of the clear heavenly mirror until the very last moment. Therefore, he wouldn't capture the mortals of the Longevity Town in front of everyone. Therefore, Xiaohua coldly harumphed and ignored Huang Xiaolong. His figure flickered as he flew to the north and south, bringing all the Fortune Gate disciples into Shenhua continent. After all, the 40,000 disciples couldn't do anything in the innate 4 directions formation. They would only be fighting for air with the mortals of the Longevity Town. After everything was done, Xiaohua waved his hand and called Wen Chu, celestial being, and the thunderbolt immortal to the front. He said, Fellow Daoists, what do you think of the current situation? Seeing that Xiaohua had gathered his clones together, Feng Wu looked at the golden-winged rock and said, Rock Sage, let's go take a look as well. Now that we're all on the same boat, let's help as much as we can. The golden-winged rock naturally didn't have any objections, and it flew over to Xiaohua's side along with Feng Wu. At this moment, Wen Chu frowned and said, We naturally have to break through the restrictions now. But all of our methods are useless in the face of this innate 4 corners formation. Perhaps only Reverend Yun's dragon item can do it? It's a pity that Reverend Yun did not come with us, as we are currently trapped in the 4 directions formation, and we can't contact him. Thunder Reverend said with a wry smile, Otherwise, I think we would be able to work together. The innate 4-way great array is too strange. Xiaohua shook his head slightly. Even that dragon artifact might not be able to succeed. Therefore, I'm afraid that we won't be able to break the formation by force. It's simple. The golden-winged rock smiled and said, We can just capture old man Gaochen and hand him over to the 4 great families. As for what they said about first entering the immortal palace, then exterminating the Taoism sect, it's just an excuse. Now that the Fortune Gate is so powerful, the 4 great families might not have the energy to deal with the Fortune Gate. It's already good enough that they can deal with the military school in a short period of time. This is the 4 great families' original intention. Wen Chu smiled and said, They want to borrow Master Zhao's hands to capture immortal Emperor Gaochen. In the future, they will use this as an excuse to join forces with the 100 schools of thought to exterminate the Taoism sect once again. The Dipankara archaic Buddha is determined not to interfere in this dispute. Xiaohua raised his head and looked at the Buddhists who were reciting Buddhist scriptures with their eyes closed. He said, I'm sure you've seen through the complexity of this matter. Of course. These old bald donkeys are cunning. The golden-winged rock sneered, The 4 great families besieging the Longevity Town is due to the internal strife of the Confucian cultivators. Although the Taoism sect is involved, it has nothing to do with the Buddhism sect. They won't let out a single word. This has always been their style. When they have to bear the consequences, they will shrink back faster than anyone else. When there are benefits, they will fly faster than anyone else. That Mahavairakana archaic Buddha probably felt that the sutra praying in nirvana this time wasn't good and knew that someone would cause trouble. That's why he didn't dare to come over and ask the Dipankara archaic Buddha to come over. Oh, this is called tribulation facing in the Buddhism sect. Seeing how the golden-winged rock wasn't interested in the Buddhism sect, Xiaohua smiled and said, "Actually, rock sage doesn't have to care about it. You just need to rest." How can this sage be compared to those old bald donkeys? The golden-winged rock said proudly, naturally, this sage wouldn't care about the 4 great families targeting old man Gaochen. However, the 4 great families even schemed against this sage. How can this sage let this go? Moreover, this sage and Dragon Master Xiao don't know each other. This sage is very willing to befriend Dragon Master Xiao. Whatever Dragon Master Xiao wants to do, this sage will support it. Good. Xiaohua laughed and raised his palm, saying, a rock sage like this is also someone this Xiao is willing to befriend. Good. The golden-winged rock was overjoyed. He hurriedly flapped his wings and clapped with Xiaohua's palm. After the palm strike, Xiaohua smiled and said, now that this Xiao has obtained rock sage's support, why should I be afraid of this formation not being broken? Instead, it was the golden-winged rock who was a little embarrassed and said in a low voice, Master Xiao Lei thinks too highly of this sage. Previously, this sage and the phoenix sage had already tried. We didn't have any effective abilities. Hearing the golden-winged rock being so straightforward, Xiaohua didn't understand the hidden meaning in the human's words. He nodded and said, while a single person can surpass others and do what 100 people can do. However, if 100 people work together, what they can do will surpass that of a single person. Breaking the formation isn't just a matter of abilities. It's also a matter of methods. We still need to work together to succeed. Seeing that the golden-winged rock still didn't understand, Xiaohua said even more straightforwardly, also, this Xiao doesn't need any abilities to help, as long as Rock Sage has the heart. There are still 10 days until the deadline. In the end, if there is no other way, this Xiao can just keep the mortals in the Longevity Town into the Kunlun Mirror. Isn't it just being trapped in the innate 4 directions formation? If nothing happens in 10 days, nothing happens in 100 days, if the 4 families have the ability to trap this Xiao for 100 years. There's no need for that. Feng Wu laughed and said, as long as the Thunder Sound Temple and Fortune Gate don't return after half a year, they will definitely come to investigate. At that time, the 4 families will be in trouble. Xiaohua smiled and said, there's no need to wait that long. 10 days later, the 4 families will definitely make their move. After the Immortal Palace falls, that will be the time for the 4 directions formation to be activated. The ones who should be restless right now should be the Immortal Emperor, not us. Then why did fellow Daoist call us here? The Celestial was confused when he heard this. Naturally, I want fellow Daoists to look around and think of a way to break the formation. Xiaohua explained, although this Immortal Emperor Gaochen is a little sinister, he is still Xinxin's father. If he controls the Immortal Palace, it will be the most beneficial for our Fortune Gate. If the 4 families control the Immortal Palace, not to mention the huge war that will kill many people, just the grudge between the Fortune Gate and the Nangong family will make our Fortune Gate fight with the 4 families sooner or later. Although the Fortune Gate is strong, the Dao Gate is not. After a long war, our Dao Gate will be destroyed. A single branch is not spring, but 100 flowers blooming is spring. Good. This sage understands. The golden-winged Great Peng nodded and said, this sage will go to the north to investigate and see if I can find any flaws. Seeing the golden-winged Great Peng leave in high spirits, Feng Wu and the others also cupped their hands and flew away. The clones understood that what Xiaohua said was only a last resort. If they could break the seal and wipe out the 4 great clans, this was the best opportunity. The 4 directions formation surrounded the Longevity Town within 1,000 li. Xiaohua's divine sense swept through and understood everything. The mountain range outside the town, the paddy fields, and the Liao River at the side of the Jianghu Ridge were all clearly seen. In the following days, Xiaohua did not dare to slack off. He opened his illusion breaker eye and scanned the four directions formation within 1,000 li, not missing a single spot. The more Xiaohua looked, the colder his heart became. This four directions formation was indeed, as immortal Emperor Gaochen said, it was a Xiantian grand formation. It could not be compared to ordinary formations, defensive formations, or Buddhist formations. Within the clouds, there were no flaws at all. Even when Xiaohua's illusion breaker eye's silver light beam fell into the clouds, it could not cause any fluctuations. In the end, Xiaohua helplessly stopped and stood in front of the mountain range like a crouching bull. At this time, it was also a moonlit night. There seemed to be some wind and rain high up in the sky, but this wind and rain could not fall on the mountain range. Xiaohua looked at the place where Lu Yi and Yuanya had a barbecue several hundred years ago. After several hundred years of wind and rain, this mountain range had changed a bit. There were fewer rocks and more trees. Even the cries of beasts in the forest had increased. However, in Xiaohua's ears, the cries of the beasts in the night were still sorrowful and helpless. Hearing this, Xiaohua's heart was also uncomfortable. In the distance of the mountain range, there were a few small villages. At this time, it should be night time, but many of the houses in the village were lit. Clearly, in these few days, some people had discovered that something was wrong, and the people were a bit anxious. Sai, the Black Wind Ridge is not too far from here. If this four directions formation was a bit bigger, perhaps it could enclose the Black Wind Ridge. Xiaohua thought to himself. However, since this four directions formation can even seal the power of faith, the teleportation channel should not be able to be used. Even if the Black Wind Ridge is here, it should not be able to be used. Thinking of the Black Wind Ridge, Xiaohua's heart suddenly moved. He looked at Liaojiang again. At this time, Liaojiang was like stagnant water. There was no water flowing in, and no water flowing out. Previously, Xiaohua had already used his illusion breaker eye to see that it was also sealed by the four directions formation. Chapter 46-47. However, Xiaohua thought to himself, that day when I fell into the eye of the sea in the West Sea, I escaped from the spatial vein in the Liao River. Although the Liao River has been sealed off by the innate five directions great formation, there might be some small spatial veins that can escape the seal of the four directions great formation. Moreover, I obtained the Yuzhou cauldron in Liao River. I remember Sun Jian said that the places guarded by the 9 provinces cauldrons are mostly connected to the 9 underworlds. Now that the 9 provinces cauldrons are gone, maybe the four directions great formation has sealed the 9 underworlds. If I want to break this four directions great formation, I naturally have to explore Liao River. Thinking about this, Xiaohua flew towards Liao River again, although he had already carefully explored the entire Liao River. Xiaohua landed on Liao River and didn't explore again. Instead, he flew several hundred li away to find the place where he obtained the Yuzhou cauldron. Unfortunately, when he arrived there, Xiaohua's body couldn't fly anymore. When Xiaohua entered the bottom of Liao River again, his divine sense swept over and looked regretfully at the place that was almost within reach. He smiled bitterly and said, Dongfang Qianghao is really good at scheming. This innate four directions great formation just happens to be where the Yuzhou cauldron is suppressing the netherworld energy. I can't even get half an inch closer. Xiaohua had already used his illusion breaker eye to see where Liao River was. He knew that this place was also airtight. The water stopped flowing here and couldn't pass through at all. After thinking for a while, Xiaohua patted his forehead and unwillingly opened his illusion breaker eye again. He looked at the place where the Yuzhou cauldron was. The southwest was where the white clouds and the flame clouds intersected. Xiaohua's eyes were filled with clouds and he couldn't see any gaps at all. When Xiaohua activated his illusion breaker eye, a silver-white beam of light roared and fell into the clouds. The clouds were still like cotton and didn't move at all. They didn't even rotate. Forget it. Xiaohua knew that he had hit a wall again. He withdrew the beam of light from his illusion breaker eye and was about to leave. It was at this moment that Xiaohua suddenly froze. His entire body trembled as he cried out in shock, "How? How is this possible?" Xiaohua hurriedly closed his delirium eye and slowly moved to the side. After flying for another 30 meters, he stopped again and opened his delirium eye again. He saw a layer of silt in front of him. Xiaohua's delirium eye actually saw a familiar blue jade necklace. Isn't this the water-phase jade luo of the Xianyuan water control flag that Xiaohua saw in the Xianyuan water palace at the bottom of the river? This jade necklace was also in the shape of a cloud. It was extremely harmonious with the white clouds and the flame clouds. If Xiaohua hadn't landed here to look carefully, he definitely wouldn't have found it. Impossible. Impossible. Xiaohua's body trembled as he thought to himself, this place should be the location of the Yuzhou cauldron. This Xiao has already carefully examined it before. A few days ago, this water blue jade was definitely not here. Moreover, this Xianyuan water control flag Xing Luo is a great enemy of this Zhao's devil saber. If it had been there before, this Zhao's devil saber would have reacted. In other words, this water phase jade luo only appeared recently. However, this water phase jade luo belongs to the Xianyuan water control flag, and the flag is in Xian's hands. Xian was also imprisoned in the Heaven's Punishment prison crystal by that damned Gaochen geezer. How could this flag be here? Could it be? Could it be? Thinking of this, Xiaohua suddenly recalled Taibai Jingxing's words at the end of the sutra praying in extreme bliss. Xiaohua suddenly became excited and thought, could it be that Gaochen geezer actually placed the new Heaven's Punishment prison crystal here? He wanted to wait until after the sutra praying in extreme bliss and let Taibai Jingxing speak. He used the sutra praying ceremony as an excuse to release Xian from the Heaven's Punishment prison crystal. Damn it, could it be that this Xiao wronged immortal Emperor Gaochen? Yes, it's possible. He originally wanted to do so, but because of Xiao Mao's repeated appearances that disrupted his plans, he changed his mind and didn't pardon Xian. Moreover, it was because he knew that Xian's Xianyuan water control flag was here that he was so calm. He was waiting for the reactions of the Supremes, waiting for this Zhao's reaction. This bastard actually had such a backup plan. If that's the case, then this Xiao has given this Xiao a good opportunity. This Xiao doesn't need to look at immortal Emperor Gaochen's face anymore. This Xiao will find the new Heaven's Punishment prison crystal and see what that bastard has to say. That's not right. If Xian was imprisoned in the Heaven's Punishment prison crystal, how could the jade luo from the Xianyuan water control flag enter this place? Oh, I see. It must be that Xian used the Xianyuan water control flag to send the jade luo through the Heaven's Punishment prison crystal to seek help from the outside. If anyone could see the jade luo, then they would naturally be able to find the Heaven's Punishment prison crystal. And today, the four clans just happened to place the innate Four Corners Grand Formation on top of the Heaven's Punishment prison crystal to suppress Xian, so the jade luo was integrated into the innate Four Corners Grand Formation. The special thing is that if I'm not mistaken, the Xianyuan water control flag is one of the innate Five Directions flags, and this jade luo is one of the clouds in the innate Five Directions Grand Formation. It is normal for the jade luo to be able to enter this place. If that's the case, then I only need to find the Heaven's Punishment prison crystal and rescue Xian. Wouldn't her Xianyuan water control flag be able to break the innate Four Corners Grand Formation? But right now, the Heaven's Punishment prison crystal is not inside the innate Four Corners Grand Formation, but below it. How can I obtain it? Xiaohua closed his delirium eyes and landed on the bottom of Liao River. His hand pinched his chin as he pondered. After half a cup of tea's time, Xiaohua's mouth revealed a trace of a smile. Subsequently, Xiaohua called Tianren, Thunderbolt Immortal, and Wen Chu to the side and told them the cause of the matter. When the doppelgangers heard this, they were all overjoyed. Xiaohua then said, "Fellow Daoists, I'll have to trouble you to confine the area within a dozen miles of this place. Don't let Gaochen Old Man and Dipankara Old Buddha see anything." All right. Celestial Being, Thunderbolt Immortal, and Wen Chu knew what Xiaohua wanted to do, so they didn't dare to be careless. They flew back for several miles and activated their divine abilities to seal the area around them. Xiaohua scanned his surroundings with his divine sense. Seeing that he was absolutely safe, he slightly extended his left arm. Boom! Demonic energy rushed out from his arm, quickly covering his entire body. In a moment, a demonic god Xiaohua appeared, and the demonic blade murder appeared from Xiaohua's left arm. Seeing the devil's saber sure appear, Xiaohua didn't hesitate. With a shua sound, it fell on top of the innate four-way great array. However, the place where the demonic saber murder landed was precisely the few pieces of aqua-blue jade above the four directions great array. These aqua-blue jade were different from the flame clouds and white clouds that formed the great array. Although the clouds under the demonic saber murder were swallowed by the demonic saber murder, the surrounding clouds swarmed over, leaving no gap at all. However, the aqua-blue jade beads where the demonic saber murder landed actually revealed their shape in an instant, and then withered and disappeared like a flash in the pan. However, just a moment after the jade beads disappeared, woo-woo. An extremely large number of jade beads began to surge out crazily. These jade beads could be seen with the naked eye, and they pounced towards the demonic saber murder. And the demonic saber murder didn't need Xiaohua to activate it at all. With a AO. Demonic energy and demonic light were produced, violently pouncing towards the aqua-blue jade beads. Hundreds of thousands of years of suppression had already made the demonic saber murder and the Xianyuan water control flag become mortal enemies. When they met each other's aura, they immediately began to fight and kill. Although he knew that the Xianyuan water control flag wasn't afraid of the demonic saber murder, Xiaohua still carefully controlled the demonic saber murder's demonic energy. But contrary to Xiaohua's expectations, in just half a cup of tea's time, the aqua-blue jade beads suddenly flourished, gushing out more violently than a fountain. Within the gushing flow, Xian's joyful mood was revealed. Xian. Xiaohua was also ecstatic, hastily putting away the demonic saber murder. The aqua-blue jade beads didn't disappear, but instead surged even more. In the time it took to smoke a cigarette, the aqua-blue jade beads covered an area of several li, forcibly pushing the flame clouds and the white clouds apart. Xiaohua's figure fell into the jade beads. The jade beads didn't stop Xiaohua, but instead dodged one after another, revealing a gap that was neither big nor small. Xiaohua, with an excited mood, rushed into the gap, and saw that the jade beads had given birth to another paperweight that was several li in size. This paperweight was golden in color, and its surface was engraved with countless ancient inscriptions. These inscriptions emitted light and shadows, and countless Confucian cultivators' fortunes were like dragons swimming in this light and shadow. These dragons' movements seemed to have no order, but it was extremely mysterious. It tightly sealed the area under the paperweight, and it basically couldn't leak out any aura. Moreover, under these light and shadow, there were even more mountains, rivers, and plants falling down. Could it be that there were tens of thousands of these overlapping images? However, right now, outside of the paperweight, there were several layers of flame clouds and white clouds twisting around. The originally mysterious dragon's fortunes were forcibly blocked, and the seamless overlapping light and shadow also had a few flaws. The aqua-blue jade beads were rushing out from these flaws. Fellow Daoist Wuxia Xianxia saw this paperweight and felt a thick imperial aura, as well as a mountainous power of order. Xiaohua immediately understood that this was an item from Immortal Emperor Go Chen's immortal palace to suppress the Tian Fa prison crystal. He didn't hesitate and anxiously said in his mind, "Quickly come here." When Xiaohua's heart was moved, Wen Chu's figure flashed and appeared next to Xiaohua. After seeing the paperweight and the three clouds on the side of the paperweight, Wen Chu couldn't help but smile. "Congratulations, fellow Daoist. This is the GG paperweight on the jade table in the Lingyun Palace. It is used to place the spring and autumn brush used by the Immortal Emperor to write decrees." This old man heard from Sun Jian that it was the Immortal Emperor's favorite. Under this GG paperweight, it must be Xian. Is there even a need to say it? Xiaohua smiled and said, "The Xianyuan water control flag has appeared, so how could Xian not be here?" Old man Gaochen was too cruel. He actually threw the Heaven's Punishment prison crystal here and even used some bullshit paperweight to suppress it. No wonder even the Celestial Empress couldn't find Xianxia's aura. No wonder this guy isn't in a hurry. It seems like this is his backup plan. Chapter 46-48. Now that we found Xianxia's whereabouts, everything will be solved. Let that old man Gaochen just watch. While speaking, Wen Chu raised his hand and clapped. 5-colored true energy gushed out. For safety's sake, Wen Chu added 3-colored true energy into the 5-colored true energy. When the 5-colored true energy turned into a huge hand and slammed down, the fortune roared like a dragon and broke free from the paperweight, pouncing on Wen Chu. Under the attack of the fortune of Confucian cultivators, Wen Chu's huge hand showed signs of collapsing. Haha. Xiaohua smiled and said, I've said it before. The fortune of Confucian cultivators is just a strand of Reverend Yun's qi. Although Reverend Yun is not here, I can still control it. Otherwise, wouldn't my title of Dragon Master be in vain? While speaking, Xiaohua opened his mouth and was about to spit out a dragon breath. But after thinking for a while, he reached out his hand and grabbed the red dragon crown, putting it on his head with a flip of his hand. Ayo! The brilliance of the red dragon crown fell, and lines of dragon runes emerged from Xiaohua's body. He let out a long roar that sounded like a dragon's roar. Then, he spat out a mouthful of dragon breath that landed on the dragon-like fortune. Roar. The dragon-like fortune was also very strong. It roared and pounced on the dragon breath, and in just a moment, it was entangled with the dragon breath. Ha ha ha. Wen Chu laughed heartily. His large hand fell from the side. Under the 5-colored cloud, the light that was lifted turned into many inscriptions on the armor. They fell like dead tadpoles. When these inscriptions landed on the aqua-blue jade, they turned into lonely strokes. The huge 5-colored hand fell on the paperweight and grabbed it. Then, Wen Chu roared, Rise! Rumble. Under the Liao River, a loud rumble could be heard. The golden paperweight was slowly pulled out from the ground by Wen Chu. The whole underground shook, and the heaven and earth order rushed out of its confinement uncontrollably. The Liao River, which was like stagnant water, suddenly became a huge wave. However, under the confinement of celestial being and lightning immortal, the huge wave calmed down in a moment. Of course, how could immortal Emperor Gaochen and the others not notice Liao Zhang's momentum and the heaven and earth order that represented the immortal palace? Especially since the source of the order of heaven and earth was at the bottom of Liao River? Immortal Emperor Gaochen's expression changed. Seeing Wen Chu pull out the paperweight, Xiaohua's heart beat wildly. He opened his mouth, and with a roar, he swallowed the destiny that was fighting the dragon breath into his stomach. Then he waved his hand, and the 5-colored hand of lightning fell and merged with Wen Chu's 5-colored hand of true energy. Rise! Xiaohua also roared and pulled out the golden paperweight all of a sudden. Then, Xiaohua decisively released his consciousness and rolled it on the golden paperweight. Whoosh! Instantly, the paperweight on the immortal palace's Lingyun Hall changed to Zhao's surname. With the disappearance of the Shiji paperweight, the boundless water-blue-colored pearls crazily gushed out. Xiaohua's figure once again flashed and was about to rush in, wanting to find a new Heaven's Punishment prison crystal to imprison. At this time, a graceful figure flashed inside the pearls. With a smile on her face, Xian appeared in front of Xiaohua with tears in her eyes. For some unknown reason, seeing the smile on Xian's face and the tears at the corner of her eyes, Xiaohua's heart was filled with great joy. It was as if his previous actions of forcing the southern heavenly gate, fighting at the sunset cliff, and now being trapped at the longevity town, everything he had done had turned into fleeting clouds. It was as if nothing in this world could compare to a trace of a smile from this woman before him. For the sake of half a teardrop at the corner of her eye, he was willing to use all of his abilities to erase it. Xian. Xiaohua called out in a low voice. His right hand reached out and pulled Xian into his embrace. Xian clearly agreed and did not resist at all. It meekly threw itself into Xiaohua's embrace and blissfully placed its face on Xiaohua's chest. Its pair of hands also circled around Xiaohua. On its left hand, there was a small flag. Wasn't that the Xianyuan water control flag? When the two of them met, their gazes only met for a moment. They only said 2 words and then each other's warmth. All words were powerless and pale at this moment. The pearls fluttered around the two of them. It was like Xianxian's shy and happy mood, and it was also like Xiaohua's peace of mind after embracing his lover. After half a cup of tea's time, Wen Chu coughed and said behind Xian, fellow immortal Xiao. Ah. Xian was shocked and hurriedly pushed Xiaohua away. She struggled out of Xiaohua's embrace with a red face and watery eyes. When Xian saw Wen Chu's cultivation, she couldn't help but turn pale with fright. She hurriedly bowed and said, Junior. Shoo. Xiaohua raised his hand and stopped Xian. He whispered, no need to be polite with him. He's my good friend. Her hand took the opportunity to grab Xian's slightly warm and soft hand. Ah. Why are you also? Xian immediately realized Xiaohua's strength was unfathomable. She cried out in shock and tried to pull her hand out of Xiaohua's grasp. Let's talk about it after we get out. Xiaohua couldn't bear to let go of Xian's hand. He firmly grasped Xian's hand and explained, right now, we're trapped in the innate 4-way formation. Do we still need your Xianyuan water control flag to help us out? Oh. When Xian first escaped, she thought everything in front of her was done by Xiaohua to save her. When she heard Xiaohua's words, she hurriedly looked up. With Xian's cultivation, she naturally could not see the connate 4 corners formation. However, as she waved the Xianyuan water control flag in her hand, the flaming clouds of the floating flame flag and the plain clouds of the white cloud-bound flag immediately appeared. Xian didn't say much and only asked, how can I help you break the formation? Xiaohua naturally didn't know how to break the formation. He was afraid that Xian's escape would attract the attention of the 4 great families and create some other variables. He only explained the situation of the innate 4-way formation. In the end, he said, since your Xianyuan water control flag is one of the innate 5-direction flags, this water-colored pearl can also be integrated into the innate 4-way formation. Then, it might be able to create a flaw in the innate 4-way formation. I understand. Xian heard clearly and said with a sweet smile, don't worry, Xiao Lang. I've already successfully refined the Xianyuan water control flag. Facing the 4 almost ownerless 4-way flags, creating a flaw is as easy as flipping my hand. Xian, you're awesome. Xiaohua was overjoyed. Looking at Xian's smiling face, he couldn't help but raise his hand and use his left thumb to stroke Xian's dark eyebrows. Although this action wasn't as intimate as kissing, Xian liked it very much. Her lips smiled like a crescent moon and she gently pulled her hand back. Xiao Lang, watch how I cast the spell. Okay. Xiaohua smiled and nodded, but his figure was unwilling to leave Xian even half a step. Xian stole a glance at Wen Chu in the distance and fiercely glared at Xiaohua a few times. However, seeing that Xiaohua's face was as thick as a city wall and was unwilling to leave, Xian was helpless. However, she felt even more sweetness in her heart. Xian raised her hand. Without activating it, a faint 5-colored true qi gushed out from her arm and landed on the Xianyuan water control flag. When the Xianyuan water control flag received the true qi, it immediately flashed with a water blue color. As the flag fluttered, an endless amount of jade flew out and rushed towards Xiaohua's head. There wasn't any sound, but as the jade flew past, the white clouds and flame clouds appeared like a tide and were squeezed to the sides. And in the middle of the jade, a gap of several tens of feet was created. Awesome! Xiaohua praised and quickly kissed Xian's forehead. Although this kiss was like a dragonfly skimming the surface of the water, Xian's face immediately turned crimson. Xiaohua ignored Xian's rolling eyes and hurriedly said, Xian, when you break through the seal, listen to my explanation. I'm sure you know that this is the Liao River beside the Longevity Town. Today is the day when the sutra seeking of extreme bliss ends. I, Xiaohua, and the Immortal Palace, Thunder Monastery, and Great Sage Hall are here to welcome Chuanzang's return. However, who would have thought that the four great families would lay down this early heaven four cardinal formation, trapping the immortal emperor, the Dipankara archaic Buddha, and the golden-winged great rock within. Hearing that the immortal emperor was here, a trace of panic appeared in Xianxia's eyes. Seeing this, Xiaohua didn't dare to explain further. However, he couldn't not explain and hurriedly said, "Don't be afraid. I've already gone to the immortal palace to ask for your hand in marriage. The immortal emperor promised that as long as I can save you from the heaven punishment prison crystal, he would agree to my dot." Before Xiaohua could finish speaking, Xian was so embarrassed that his neck turned red. He hurriedly kicked Xiaohua lightly, not allowing him to continue speaking. Xiaohua had never treated Wen Chu as an outsider. He also didn't expect the calm and decisive Xian to be so shy. He hurriedly stopped and said, all right. I won't say any more. I'm just letting you know about the current situation. Moreover, from the looks of it, you're also His Majesty's backup plan. However, I've already discovered it. Now, I'll make him suffer in silence. Yes, I understand. Xian nodded. I'll activate the Profound Origin Water Control Flag. Darling Xiao, you can inform His Majesty and the others to come over. Once there's a passage, we'll be able to escape. All right. Xiaohua smiled and nodded. Then, he said to Wen Chu, then, I'll have to trouble you, fellow immortal. Go and inform Immortal Emperor Gaochen, the golden-winged great rock, and the Dipankara archaic Buddha. All right. Wen Chu smiled and left. How could he not understand Xiaohua's intentions? If Xiaohua wanted to inform them, why would he need to leave? Xiaohua only needed to inform the heavenly being and the Thunderbolt Hermit, and they would be able to inform Immortal Emperor Gaochen when they removed the restrictions. Seeing Wen Chu leave, Xiaohua said in a low voice, Xian, it's all my fault. I didn't expect you to do so much for me. It's all right. Seeing that there was no one around, Xian regained her calm and smiled. Aren't you here now? I'm very happy. Give it a recommendation vote, collect it, or tip it. Thank you for all your support. Chapter 46-49. Then. Are you still going back to the Immortal Palace? Xiaohua hurriedly asked. This was what he wanted to ask. A trace of desolation and helplessness appeared in Xian's eyes. After thinking for a moment, he replied, of course I don't want to. However, if there is no marriage agreement, no matchmaker, and no orders from my parents, I am really not suitable to stay by your side. After all, I'm still the 9th princess of the Immortal Palace. I can't let others laugh at me, and I can't embarrass His Majesty. All right. Hearing Xian's first sentence, Xiaohua felt relieved. He smiled and said, I won't make things difficult for you. That's great. As he spoke, Xian's little finger scratched Xiaohua's palm as he whispered, if there's no one around, you can do this. But when His Majesty comes later, you can't do it. I know. Xiaohua's heart was bursting with joy. He held Xian's soft hand a few times before letting go because Immortal Emperor Go Chen's clear gaze was sweeping over from afar. Your Majesty. Xian didn't dare to be careless and quickly spoke after seeing Immortal Emperor Gaochen's figure. Immortal Emperor Gaochen waved his hand and said, no need to be so courteous. I have suppressed you here to prevent any changes in the sutra seeking of extreme bliss. Yes, Your Majesty. Xian was even more disappointed after hearing Immortal Emperor Go Chen's cold tone. She answered and activated the jade bracelet again. Boom, boom, boom. It was also at this moment that outside the jade bracelet, there was a sudden great tremor. The jade bracelet began to swirl in the air, and the several hundred feet wide passageway suddenly shrunk. Obviously, the four aristocratic families had already discovered that there was something wrong with the array, and had begun to activate the 4 square flags to encircle and suppress the Xianyuan water control flag. Puff. Xian glanced at the slightly anxious Xiaohua. Without any hesitation, he spat a mouthful of essence blood onto the Xianyuan water control flag. At this time, the flag didn't reject Xian's essence blood like it did at the beginning. Instead, after Xian's essence blood fell, it immediately produced a blood-colored jade. This jade was 3 times bigger than before. Moreover, this jade's blood-colored light seemed to be able to spread. In a moment, it had already dyed all the jade, and the nearby space was blood-red. Whoosh! Suddenly, a wave of awe-inspiring qi descended upon Xian's body. Xian hurriedly called out, "Darling Xiao." Hearing that Xian didn't call him, "Your Majesty," and instead called him, Xiaohua, Xiaohua's heart was about to be drunk. He turned around and shouted, "Your Majesty, leave quickly." "All right." The Gochin Immortal Emperor acknowledged. 5 colored radiances flickered around his body, and he transformed into a distorted silhouette as he dashed out of the tunnel. Behind him wasn't Sun Jian or Tai Bai Jinxing. Instead, it was the Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Exalt. The Dipankara Archaic Buddha World Exalt nodded at Xian before disappearing in a flash. Caw. After the Dipankara Archaic Buddha, it was naturally the golden-winged Great Rock. He let out a strange cry and blinked his eyes at Xiaohua and Xian before flapping his wings and rushing out of the tunnel. Then, the primordial chaos ancestor, Phoenix Wu, heavenly being, and the others flew over. Xiaohua nodded slightly, and his clones left first. In the end, the primordial chaos ancestor cupped his hands towards Xiaohua helplessly before flying out of the tunnel with the concealed Night Child and Daoist rider Crane. After these people left, Xiaohua grabbed Xian's waist and said, "Let's go. We'll leave first. There's no need to wait for the formation to be completely broken. Once His Majesty leaves, this earlier Heaven 4-way grand formation will be broken." "All right." Xian agreed obediently. A jade bracelet appeared beneath his feet and carried him and Xiaohua out of the tunnel. As expected, after flying for a few hundred feet, sounds of mountains collapsing and the earth cracking could be heard from outside the jade bracelet. The entire tunnel expanded by dozens of times, and the pressure of the earlier Heaven 4-way grand formation suddenly disappeared. As Xian waved the Xianyuan water control flag, the jade luo near the water slowly disappeared. Under the sunlight, Xiaohua could see clearly that he and Xian were already above Liao River. Currently, due to the earlier Heaven 4-way grand formation being broken, the Liao River's water that had been obstructed for several days gushed down like a flood. As it roared, the paddy fields by the shore were swept into the river. Damn it! Seeing this, Xiaohua cursed inwardly. Not daring to delay, he waved his hand and took out the Kunlun mirror. In a flash of light, tens of thousands of Fortune Gate's disciples were released. When these disciples heard the battle cries in front of them, their blood boiled, and they prepared to use their magic power to fight. However, Xiaohua ordered, "Disciples, use your divine abilities to suppress the Liao River's water. Don't let the river water reach the shore." The group of Fortune Gate's disciples looked at each other, but they were only stunned for a moment. Then, they roared, "Yes, disciples understand." Then, each of them flew towards the Liao River, preparing to suppress the flood. Darling Xiao. Seeing Xiaohua giving orders like this, treating the Longevity Town's citizens as more important than anything else, Xian's heart was intoxicated. That thin figure, slender eyebrows, and that unfathomable benevolence, he was far more charming than any all-powerful general or emperor. Admiration flickered in Xian's eyes as she whispered, "This concubine can do this." Without waiting for Xiaohua to answer, Xian waved the Mystic Origin water control flag in her hand. Hundreds of jade talismans fell into the Liao River, and the roaring water dragons immediately submitted, obediently flowing along the river. Although the river's water level was much higher than the shore, there was not a trace of water that exceeded the river's flow. "Good," Xiaohua praised. His hand reached out again, wanting to hold Xian's hand. Xian was originally flying out with Xiao Hua's arm around her waist, but when she saw Xiao Hua take out the Kunlun mirror, she immediately dodged to the side. When she saw Xiao Hua's hand, her figure flickered again, and she winked at Xiao Hua with her left eye. Those quivering eyelashes and the bashfulness in her eyes seemed to tickle Xiao Hua's heart, making him reluctant to reject Xian's pleading. Xiao Hua could only withdraw his hand, and then he ordered the disciples, "All of you, line up and prepare for the battle." "Yes, sect master." The disciples were also the kind of people with sharp eyes. Seeing Xian like this, how could they not know what was going on? They all shouted in unison, "Sect master." These 5 words were truly earth-shattering. Although Xian did not know why Xiao Hua was called sect master, seeing Xiao Hua being so revered by the disciples, she was also happy. The corners of her mouth curved up, and it was like the mellow fragrance of sweet wine. Xiao Hua glared at these disciples, and then released his divine sense to look around. He saw that the current longevity town was no longer the longevity town before the extreme bliss scripture-seeking bliss. Thousands of miles above longevity town, millions of disciples from aristocratic families had formed a battle team. This battle team was very similar to the 4 aristocratic families' disciples Xiao Hua saw in front of Chaomu Cliff, but it was also different. The strength of these disciples was clearly a level higher than the 900,000 disciples. Moreover, these 1 million disciples were divided into 2 layers. 30% of the disciples were in the inner layer, guarding the 4 directions, facing longevity town, and surrounding it like an iron bucket. Above these aristocratic family disciples, Dongfang Qianghao, Shimen Jinzhong, Nangong Tianji, and Baiming Chuqing's faces were heavy with helplessness and unwillingness. They each held a small flag in their hands, and the flags were covered in clouds, protecting 30% of the disciples. And outside of these disciples were another 70% of the disciples. These disciples wore heavy armor and were facing the outside. Their killing intent and majestic auras were like dragons, cruising around the edges of the battle squad. Boom! 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 Just as Xiao Hua was looking around, in the sky to the left of the longevity town, there was a loud rumbling sound. Countless pillars of vast qi crashed into the town, and the sky was already wide open. Groups of immortal soldiers and immortal generals raised their banners high, stepping on the earth, fire, wind, and thunder as they descended. They even sealed off the 10,000 li radius around the longevity town. The sounds of battle and the rosy clouds had already blocked the sunlight that filled the sky. The piece of the Sutra of Bliss had already been torn to pieces. Under the mask of mercy, a bloody ferocity was revealed. Dongfang Qianghao. Immortal Emperor Go Chen was facing Dongfang Qianghao. He was 1,000 zhang tall now, and his sun and moon imperial robes were majestic. Lightning flashed as he spoke. His voice was like the punishment of the heavens. "I have always treated the 4 clans well. I even wanted to betroth my beloved princess to you 4 princes. I didn't expect you to have such evil intentions, setting up such an ambush in longevity town. If it wasn't for the heavens protecting me, I would have fallen into your trap." Gaochen. Dongfang Qianghao smiled coldly and said, "The winner is the king, the loser is the bandit. Since you're lucky that my innate 4 cardinal formation can't trap you, there's no need to waste time. Let's fight. Let's fight and see who wins." I am the son of the heavens, the ruler of the immortal palace. I have the fortune of the world on me, so how can you covet it? Immortal Emperor Go Chen laughed and pointed around. "You've been surrounded by my solar temple, lunar temple, heavenly king temple, and light temple. How can you survive? If you abandon your weapons and surrender, you may still have a way out. If you stubbornly resist to the end, only death awaits you." Old Go Chen. Dongfang Qianghao was not moved at all. He said coldly, "History is always written by the victors. Fortune is always the reward of the victors. If you didn't steal the power of the immortal palace, how could you have the fortune of fortune on you? Don't worry. Once I kill you in the longevity town, it will be renamed as the Bandit Town, and the luck of Confucian cultivators will return to me." Wishful thinking. Immortal Emperor Gochen sneered and took out his Son of Heaven's sword. Since you don't know how to repent and cherish the chance I gave you, then let the wrath of the heavens descend and punish your rebellious path. Immortal Emperor Gochen looked at Wen Chu in the distance and ordered, Wen Chu Palace Master, can you help me kill these traitors? Wen Chu's body flashed and landed on the other side of Dongfang Qianghao. His voice was like thunder. How can I not obey your majesty's orders? Everyone has the right to kill these traitors. Give it a tip, and thank you for all your support. Chapter 4650. With that, Wen Chu raised his hand and the heaven and earth pagoda flew out. The pagoda emitted a thunderous roar and enveloped the area within 100 miles of Dongfang Qianghao. Its unstoppable force slammed down towards Dongfang Qianghao. Haha. Dongfang Qianghao wasn't afraid at all despite the pagoda's boundless aura. He sneered, you don't know what kind of treasure you're facing. With that, Dongfang Qianghao waved his hand and the small flag in his hand began to move. Wen Chu understood that this flag was a triangular flag. The entire flag was apricot yellow, and there were 5 golden lotuses embroidered on the flag. Between the 5 jade talismans, there were faint cloud patterns. The edges of the flag were embroidered with clouds, suns, and moons. When the flag was waved, the clouds floated and the sun and moon shone brightly. Moreover, the flag didn't summon any worldly energy or righteous aura. There wasn't even any energy fluctuation. However, as he waved it, the small flag shone with an apricot yellow light. Every time the light flashed, many golden lotuses would appear and slowly float in the air. Strange runic symbols flowed on the apricot yellow light. These runic symbols were golden and silver in color, and they looked like tadpoles or inscriptions. The lotuses rushed to the sky and landed below the pagoda. The pagoda rumbled several times but couldn't descend. It was stopped by Dongfang Qianghao's apricot yellow flag. There wasn't the slightest trace of smoke and dust. In the name of the Son of Heaven, I summon the might of the heaven and earth, summon the arts of immortal Confucianism, and punish the traitors. Immortal Emperor Gochen sneered and took out his sword while chanting. As the emperor's words echoed in the air, the entire space trembled. Waves of earth-shattering ripples came down along with layers of heavenly punishment. The lightning was like fire, burning the sky red. Immortal Emperor Gochen had already brought down his sword. The heavenly punishment and the wrath of the immortal palaces not only fell on Dongfang Qianghao but also the hundreds of thousands of Dongfang clan disciples. The west side of Longevity Town was where the Shimen family was guarding. Shimen Jinzhong held a triangular ball of light in his hand. The white cloud-bound flag did not reveal its true appearance. Beneath him, there were also hundreds of thousands of disciples from aristocratic families, close to 1 million. They were about to clash with Lunar Temple's troops. Shimen Jinzhong didn't command the battle formation. He narrowed his eyes and looked forward. In front of him, the golden-winged Peng and Feng Wu had surrounded him. Not to mention the fact that Feng Wu wanted to kill Shimen Jinzhong, even the golden-winged Peng was furious. As it flapped its wings, hundreds of pillars of light descended from the sky and fell into the star marks on its body. Then, a starlight phantom several thousand feet in size appeared near the golden-winged Peng's body. The space within this phantom completely collapsed and a destructive aura filled the air. The Phoenix Wu didn't dare to be careless and also moved her monster body. Boom, boom, boom. The power of the stars and moon poured down like a river of stars. As countless star patterns flashed around the Phoenix Wu's body, a starlight phantom that was less than 10,000 feet tall but seemed to be solid and transparent appeared. The brilliance at the edge of this phantom was distorted, and if one's gaze fell upon it, they would immediately sink. The Phoenix Wu let out a clear cry and activated her monster body and phantom at the same time as the golden-winged roc. Her 4 sharp claws were suffused with a power that could destroy heaven and earth as she pounced towards Shimen Jinzhong. Shimen Jinzhong sneered. He waved the ball of light in his hand. The ball of light scattered, revealing a triangular cloud-bound flag. The flag was white, and there were 5 clouds embroidered on the flag. The 5 clouds were different, and there were some cloud-like patterns in between. At the edge of the white cloud-bound flag, there was no special shape, only some twisted cloud patterns. At this moment, when Shimen Jinzhong waved the white cloud-bound flag, the entire small flag emitted a white brilliance. At the bottom of the brilliance, strange runes flowed. These runes were the same as the other flags, they were golden and silver in color. They were shaped like tadpoles and were shaped like inscriptions. Moreover, under the brilliance, there was a lot of dense clouds. These clouds seemed to slowly float in the air, but in a moment, they protected Shimen Jinzhong and some of the disciples of the Shimen family, welcoming the terrifying attacks of the golden-winged roc and Feng Wu. The south of the Longevity town was naturally where the Nangong clan was guarding. Nangong Tianji's face was filled with shock as he faced the celestial being and the lightning enlightened being. He really didn't expect immortal Emperor Gaochen and the others to be able to escape from the innate Four Directions Grand Formation. In order to set up this innate Four Directions Grand Formation without attracting the attention of the Immortal Palace, avoiding the Earth, the Heaven and Earth Gate, and the Thunder Sound Temple's Arhut, the four great clans spent a lot of effort. In order to dispel Immortal Emperor Gaochen's doubts, the four great clans even used the conflict between the Nangong clan and Xiaohua to set up a trap. They were prepared to use the 900,000 disciples and the Nangong clan's reputation as the price to lure Immortal Emperor Gaochen. Whether it was the reputation or the 900,000 disciples, these were the limits of the four great clans. Their goal was to trap Immortal Emperor Gaochen in the Longevity town so that they could attack the Immortal Palace and obtain the Golden Throne. Fortunately, Xiaohua was merciful. He took the Nangong clan's reputation and released the 500,000 disciples back to the four great clans. Dongfang Xianghao secretly laughed at Xiaohua's soft-heartedness and comforted Nangong Tianji, saying that they would use the blood of the Fortune Gate's disciples to wash away the humiliation of the Nangong clan. However, the Nangong clan was clear that once the four great clans took over the Immortal Palace, the first thing they would do would be to appease and recruit the Fortune Gate. There was no way they would start a war. The Nangong clan would definitely be tied to the Pillar of Humiliation. The humiliation of the Nangong clan would probably only be forgotten after thousands of years. Therefore, when he saw the celestial being and the lightning enlightened being attacking together, Nangong Tianji's eyes turned red. He didn't wait for the two of them to make a move and immediately waved the triangular ball of light in his hand. As the ball of light scattered, a triangular floating flame flag was revealed. This flag had 5 different colors, and there were 5 flames embroidered on the flag. Not only did each flame have a different color and shape, but they also divided the flag into 5 regions. These 5 regions intertwined with each other, and it looked like the chaotic space of the 5 elements. The 5 flaming swords also had some interconnected threads of fire. Strange runes were flashing on the swords. As Nangong Tianji waved the swords, the runes turned into tadpoles and swam on the flag. Layers of flame-shaped clouds rushed out rapidly and protected the disciples of the Nangong family and Nangong Tianji. Motherfucker! The celestial cursed as the clouds flew out. The layers of defenses were stronger than anything in the world, and the celestial raised his hand to summon the Deva's white bone. Rumbling sounds could be heard as the surrounding space began to collapse, and the magical laws of heaven and earth began to arrive. Seeing the faint golden light around the celestial being's body, and the laws of heaven and earth disappeared the moment they entered the golden light, the lightning enlightened being laughed and said, "Congratulations, fellow cultivator. If I'm not wrong, you will be able to refine the celestial being's white bone into your body today." Roar. The celestial being roared towards the sky. Golden light shone from his body, and 3 heads and 6 arms slowly grew out. The 3 mouths shouted at the same time, "Whether or not I can succeed will depend on whether the celestial being floating flame flag of that old bastard Nangong can withstand my attack." After he finished speaking, the celestial being didn't hesitate. He waved his hands and feet and rushed towards the flaming clouds of the floating flame flag. Puff puff puff. A series of muffled sounds came as the celestial being activated his cultivation technique. While refining the celestial being's white bone, he attacked Nangong Tianji at the same time. The celestial being's body flashed with golden light, and when the golden light landed on the cloud, it was as Immortal Emperor Gaochen had said. All evil was repelled, and all the golden light hit the surface of the celestial being's body. Waves of strange fluctuations came from the places where the golden light landed, and they rushed into the celestial being's body and penetrated his bones. Seeing the celestial being in such a state, the Thunderbolt Hermit kept the Thunderbolt sword that he had already activated and stood at the side with his hands behind his back to support the celestial being. However, the Thunderbolt Hermit also released his divine sense and scanned the surroundings. The primordial chaos ancestor, the concealed night child, and the riding crane hermit, who had flown out earlier, were nowhere to be seen. They must have left this troublesome place as soon as they escaped. The north of the Longevity Town was naturally where the Dark North family was guarding. However, the Dipankara archaic Buddha, who had rushed out together with immortal Emperor Go-Chen, wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, he sat cross-legged on the 9 grades lotus platform and glared at Dark North Kyo-Ching, who was holding the triangular flag. The Buddhism sect was naturally merciful, but it didn't mean that they didn't have the means to subdue devils. Back then, in the profound water palace, Guzhen even used his protective means and overestimated himself, trying to shake the profound essence water control flag. Facing the green lotus flag today, the Dipankara archaic Buddha's world lord was truly enraged. However, he chanted, Namo Amitba, my Buddha is merciful. Please forgive your disciples' anger today. As he spoke, the Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord raised his right palm, which expanded to a size of several miles. That Buddha palm was no longer a Buddha palm. Instead, it resembled a huge mountain, a deep pool, or countless Buddha kingdoms. Boundless power of faith fell within this Buddha palm. Under this Buddha palm, the power of mountains, stars, and samsara, which were commonly seen in Buddhism sect's Buddha seals, were continuously produced. Following the changes of this force, the space above the northern nether family's head started collapsing, and being annihilated. Buddha lights, blood lights, and even faint cries of wandering souls could be heard. Dark North Kyo-Ching's expression changed drastically. However, she forced herself to remain calm and waved the green lotus flag in her hand. This green lotus flag was different from the other 5 elements flags. A layer of treasured radiance covered the flag, and within the radiance, strange runes flickered. At first glance, this treasured radiance resembled the Maitreya Buddha's 7 Wonders tree. Give it a recommendation vote, collect it, or tip it. Thank you for all forms of support. Chapter 4651. However, there were 3 green lotuses embroidered on the flag gate. The lotuses were of different sizes and were arranged in a triangular formation. Each of the lotuses had clouds coming out from them. These clouds intertwined on the flag and formed circles as thin as mosquitoes. Currently, as the green lotus flag was being waved, countless rays of light shot out from the circular surface of the flag, forming the shapes of sariras of various sizes in midair. These sariras emitted a kind of extreme gentleness. As they shot into the air, they welcomed the Dipankara archaic Buddha's Buddha palm. Kill. As the group of Supreme Being experts made their moves, the immortal soldiers and immortal generals naturally received the orders from their generals. They activated the clouds and pounced on the battle teams of the disciples of the 4 great clans with weapons in hand. For a moment, the battle cries rang out again. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen was fooled by the 4 clans and came to longevity from his palace. However, he was still fully prepared and hid his troops in the fire, earth, wind, and lightning above the town in case of an emergency. Unfortunately, Immortal Emperor Go-Chen still underestimated the 4 clans. The moment the Xiantian 4 Corners Grand Formation appeared, it immediately cut off all information. If it wasn't for the new mystic water control flag, then the 4 clans would have succeeded. Once Immortal Emperor Go-Chen escaped, the first thing he did was to issue a decree and order the 10 halls to surround and annihilate the disciples of the 4 great clans. Of course, the 4 great clans were not unprepared. The 70% of the disciples outside the Grand Formation were prepared to meet the 10 halls troops. In the time it took to finish a cup of tea, tens of thousands of disciples and immortal soldiers had already perished. Their flesh and blood began to scatter all over the sacred ground of the Buddhist sect. As for Immortal Emperor Gaochen, the Son of Heaven's sword carried the heavenly punishment and slammed into the 10,000 golden lotuses of the apricot yellow flag. The lotuses were destroyed by the heavenly punishment, but they were born again. Even with the suppression of Wen Chu's worldly pagoda, the Son of Heaven's sword couldn't reach Dongfang Qionghao's eyes. Immortal Emperor Go Chen and Wen Chu didn't succeed, but the Pang and the Phoenix Parasol didn't fare any better. The 4 claws of the 2 grand saints were extremely powerful at this moment. Even if there was a mountain here, it would still be torn to pieces. However, when such a powerful attack landed in the clouds, it destroyed most of them. But in the next moment, more clouds surged out and dragged the 2 great saints' bodies out of the clouds. He didn't let them get close at all. As for the Dipankara archaic Buddha's Buddha palm, as soon as it landed, the Sarira lights were annihilated. However, as the lights were annihilated, another layer of lights appeared. These layers of lights overlapped each other and blocked the Buddha palm's attack. Upon seeing this, be it the immortal Emperor Go Chen, the Dipankara archaic Buddha, or even the golden-winged great rock, their expressions changed drastically. After all, as long as the 4 great clans had the 4 cardinal flags, they would be in an invincible position. This battle would probably not have any results. They all looked at the new princess who was standing with Xiao Hua in the distance. His gaze fell on the Xianyuan water control flag in her hand. Feng Wu, Daoist thunderclap, and Wen Chu's expressions didn't change at all. They knew clearly in their hearts that even though the 4 great clans had the innate 4 directional flags, the flags could only be used for defense. In other words, they were invulnerable to all evil, and invulnerable to all techniques. Xiao Hua's Devil's Saber massacre was the nemesis of these 4 cardinal flags. As for the heavenly being, he was happily activating his abilities and rushing into the flaming clouds. He was extremely busy. Xan Xan. The immortal Emperor Gochen said, "Listen to my command. Help me destroy this yin-yang apricot yellow flag." "Yes, your majesty." Xian naturally couldn't disobey the orders of the celestial emperor, so he respectfully responded. He secretly glanced at Xiao Hua before urging his body to fly out. When Dongfang Qianghao saw this, his face turned even paler. He seemed to have already seen the 4 great clans bleeding all over the ground and being annihilated. Boom, boom, boom. It was also at this moment that a thunderous sound came from the sky. It was like a torrential rain, and it was like 10,000 horses were mute. This sound covered the sky and passed through the sky. The floating clouds in the sky were more or less shattered. Layers of chaotic fluctuations fell down as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. In an instant, the sun and moon lost their light, and the stars dimmed. This. What's going on? All of the Supreme Being experts were dumbfounded. As the fluctuations descended, waves of fear and trepidation inexplicably arose in their hearts. A faint scent of blood and destruction drifted around their mouths and noses. However, this phenomenon disappeared in a flash. Before they could think about it, the sky above them shone brightly once again. Not only did the ripples disappear, even the sound disappeared. Everything was like the deafening battle cries. There was no change at all. That strange phenomenon was like a dream in an instant. Oh no! How could Xiao Hua not understand what had happened? He didn't hesitate at all. He didn't dare to conceal his cultivation anymore. He raised his hand and slapped his forehead. The immortal Emperor Gochen also pointed at his forehead. Golden light overflowed from his eyes, and waves of strange fluctuations slowly appeared in front of his eyes. As for the Dipankara archaic Buddha, the World Lord retracted his Buddha palm. Shadows appeared in his ears, and countless radiances appeared behind his head and fell into the shadows of his ears. Boom! Just when the Supreme Being experts were about to execute their abilities to calculate the karma, another massive chi pillar emerged from the earth, fire, wind, and lightning. A patrol inspector clad in bright armor descended from the sky. His figure was still distorted, and before he could solidify, a panicked voice resounded, Your Majesty, the Heaven's Secret Hall's Ji Prefecture has an urgent report." Before the inspector's voice could land, ka-cha-cha, a thunderous rumble could be heard. From the direction of the soaring Dragon Mountain Range, a Fortune Gate disciple with a cultivation of Grade 8 origin energy was flying over. That disciple's face was filled with panic as he hurriedly said, reporting to the Patriarch, "There is an urgent report from the Star-Picking Tower." Boom. Similarly, from the Thunder Monastery's direction, a pillar of Buddha light pierced through the sky. A long-eared arhat clad in a monk's robe hurriedly descended while stepping on a 6th-grade Buddha lotus. That arhat's eyes were filled with disbelief. He didn't have the calmness of an ordinary Buddha as he said, "Dipankara Archaic Buddha, the World Lord, Heavenly King Polylore has sent an urgent report from the southern part of the Blessed Land world." Speak. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen hurriedly stopped his divine ability and retreated. Reporting. Without waiting for the patrol inspector to speak, the starry sky to the north of the Longevity Town was already in chaos. Streams of stars fell from the sky, and after they fell to the ground, a celestial bridge pierced through them and rushed over from afar. Amidst the starlight, a faint hall could be seen on the other side of the celestial bridge. The Great Sage Hall's celestial bridge sent a message. The golden-winged great rock didn't have any divine ability of karma, nor did he have the ability to predict the future. He only knew that something earth-shattering must have happened in the 3 continents. Now that he saw the Great Sage Hall using the celestial bridge to send a message, his expression changed greatly. He exclaimed, "Could it be that something strange has happened in my 1,000 demons' sacred territory?" Sage Peng. No demons appeared where the star bridge landed. Instead, a dignified voice sounded. It was the 3rd great sage of the Great Sage Temple, the mystic armored Pentaceratops. Strange insects have appeared in the extreme north of our 1,000 demons' sacred realm. There are countless of them, and they devoured several demon realms in a single day. Not only did the demons in the demon realms vanish into nothingness, even the mountains and lakes of the demon realms have disappeared without a trace. It is exactly the same as the Qijing, Yuanfeng, and Bingqin demon realms from before. Countless? The golden-winged great rock was dumbfounded. Not only that. The Pentaceratops continued, the same insects have appeared in the west of the West Sea. They have devoured hundreds of thousands of sea demons and thousands of dragons. The Dragon King of the West Sea, Ao Hong, happened to be patrolling the eye of the West Sea and was besieged by the insects. It is unknown whether he is still alive or not. Sacred Rock, we have gathered at the Great Sage Hall. You and Sacred Phoenix should return quickly so that we can discuss how to eliminate these insects. West Sea Dragon King Ao Hong is still alive? Let alone the golden-winged Great Rock, even Immortal Emperor Go-Chen, the Dipankara Archaic Buddha, and Xiao Hua were stunned. The Dragon King of the West Sea, Ao Hong, was a Dragon King of the 9th grade Essence Qi realm. Although he had yet to reach the peak of the 9th grade Essence Qi realm, he shouldn't have been besieged by these insects, right? Strange insects. Xiao Hua suddenly came to an understanding, and his gaze passed through everyone to look at Sun Jian. Sure enough, Sun Jian's expression changed drastically as well, and he just happened to be looking at Xiao Hua. As their gazes met, a strand of indescribable terror arose in their eyes at the same time. None of the people present knew how powerful the strange insects they had encountered in the void were. If they encountered those strange insects, then the 3 continents would be doomed. After all, even the dragon race and the dragon temple were no match for those strange insects. After the profound armored Pentaceratops finished speaking, the starry bridge disappeared, and the inverted starry river returned to its original state. Your Majesty. The Immortal Palace's inspector stole a glance at Immortal Emperor Go-Chen, who had also turned pale, and reported, "Urgent report from the Heavenly Mysteries Hall. Strange insects have appeared at the border of the hidden Immortal Continent in the east of the Ji province. These insects are innumerable. They are like locusts, leaving no survivors behind. Now, they have caused the annihilation of 10 countries. Millions of living beings have died. 10 7th grade Essence Qi realm disciples of the Heavenly Mysteries Hall have perished, and 400,000 immortal soldiers guarding the border of the continent have gone missing." Long-eared Arhat. Shock appeared on the Dipankara Archaic Buddha's face as he looked at the Arhat who had sent the report. reporting to the World Lord. Long-eared Arhat hurriedly replied, Heavenly King Polylore has sent an urgent report from the southern part of the Blessed Land world. Strange insects have appeared at the border of the Blessed Land world. These insects are of different sizes. The small ones are less than a few inches, while the big ones are more than a few dozen feet. These insects devour everything, and they especially like things that contain the spiritual chi of heaven and earth. Some insects even devour Buddhist lights. Before the report was sent, more than 40 temples and 60,000 Buddhas had gone missing. Among them, 7 Arhats and 14 Vajras had gone missing. Chapter 46-52. Hearing this, Xiaohua couldn't help asking, how many people have gone missing? That long-eared Arhat originally had other numbers to say, but when he heard Xiaohua's question, he took a deep breath and lamented, 40 temples. About 4,670,000 benefactors have disappeared. So many. Xiaohua's heart ached, then he looked at his disciple and asked, do you have more bad news? That Fortune Gate disciple took a deep breath and said loudly, other than the above, Zhai Xinglu has other news. On the hidden immortal mainland, strange insects have appeared in Qing province and Yangzhou, killing nearly 700,000 people in 4 towns. On the White Bone Mountain range in the western part of the Western Paradise, 400,000 people have gone missing, and the mountain range has been swallowed. If I'm not mistaken, it is also the doing of strange insects. On the eastern part of the Thousand Demons sacred territory, 800,000 demonic beast tribes have gone missing near the Chitty River, including 307 greater demonic beasts. On the eastern part of the Eastern Sea, 310,000 sea tribes have been killed by strange insects. Anything else? Xiaohua gritted his teeth. Yes. That disciple flipped his hand and took out a jade eye. He passed it to Xiaohua and said, Zhai Xinglu has lost more than a dozen disciples and sent back images of strange insects. Xiaohua lifted his hand and made a grabbing motion. The jade eye instantly fell into his hand. Xiaohua flipped his hand and placed it on his forehead, but at that moment, he hesitated for a moment. He closed his eyes slightly, calmed his mind, and put it down. As Xiaohua had expected, there were more than a dozen images of strange insects in the jade eye. Some were big, some were small, and 2 of them were exactly the same as the ones he had seen in the void on the Dragon Island. Among these dozen strange insects, there were 3 that were bigger than the strange insects he had seen on the Dragon Island. Similarly, there were 7 or 8 strange insects that were smaller than the strange insects Xiaohua had seen in the void. Moreover, the smallest strange insect, Xiaohua, seemed to be slightly familiar. He pondered for a moment before coming to a realization. Wasn't it the myriad of black dots he saw in the spatial rift when he fell into the Western Sea all those years ago? At that time, the black dots were completely black, but he could still remember the shape of the black dots. Wasn't it similar to the smallest strange insect? Moreover, the black dots wriggled like maggots, and the black dots attacked like soul spikes. Xiaohua's memories were still fresh in his mind. Even Xiaohua, who had an innate divine restriction outside his Naiwan palace that was impossible for ordinary people, was knocked unconscious by this strange insect's soul-piercing attack. Then, what about the other cultivators? If it were any other cultivator, even if they had reached the tribulation passing stage, without a special spirit treasure or even a heaven spirit treasure, they wouldn't be able to escape death. Xiaohua's heart couldn't help but clench at the thought of the hundreds of millions of strange insect shadows. He took the jade eye ring off his forehead and looked at the disciples of the 4 great clans who had stopped fighting, as well as the immortal soldiers and immortal generals of the 10 halls of the immortal palaces. With sorrow in his eyes, he threw the jade eye ring to Sun Jian. Seeing the jade pupil slowly flying in the air, it didn't fall into immortal Emperor Go Chen's hand, but it fell into Sun Jian's. Others didn't understand, but Sun Jian's heart felt as if it had fallen into an ice cellar. After receiving the jade eye ring, light flashed in Sun Jian's eyes. After looking at it for a moment, his face turned pale, and he respectfully passed it to immortal Emperor Go Chen. After immortal Emperor Go Chen looked at it, he passed it to Tai Bai Jinxing. Tai Bai Jinxing didn't take a look at it, and instead, he passed it to Namo Great Wisdom Manjushri, who then passed it to Namo Dipankara Archaic Buddha. After all the supreme experts present finished looking at it, the jade eye ring returned to Xiao Hua's hand. Xiao Hua looked at the jade eye ring with a heavy gaze, and just as he was about to keep it, Immortal Emperor Gochen shouted from afar, Xian Xian, come and help me break this Wuji apricot yellow flag. Disciples of the immortal palaces, listen to my command, kill. Damn it. Xiao Hua was enraged. He pointed his finger, and a thunderbolt descended from the sky, striking towards Immortal Emperor Gochen. Of course, this thunderbolt was only a warning. Immortal Emperor Gochen wielded the Sun Moon Emperor armor to shatter this thunderbolt. Master Xiao Lei, are you going to offend your superior? Immortal Emperor Gochen lost his face, and he couldn't help but feel angry. Your Majesty. Xiao Hua looked at the 10 immortal palaces of the immortal palaces, and suppressed the anger in his heart. Don't you see? The extraterrestrial enemies have already invaded the 3 continents and the 4 seas. If we don't work together to defend against them, I'm afraid the 3 continents and 4 seas will be destroyed. Destroy the world. How is that possible? Immortal Emperor Gochen sneered, since the ancient times, our 3 continents have existed for who knows how long, and who knows how many extraterrestrial dangers we've encountered. I also never knew that the extraterrestrial enemies had the ability to destroy the world. Are the cultivators of our 3 continents made of mud? Immortal Emperor Gochen looked at Dongfang Qianghao, and said, to resist the foreign invasion, we must first settle our internal affairs. Even if I want to defend against the foreign invasion, I must first eliminate the 4 great clans. Otherwise, how can I be at ease killing those strange insects? Princess Xian hurriedly said, reporting to your Majesty, although I have already controlled the mystic water control flag, the innate 5-element flags are only good at defense, and cannot be used to attack. Moreover, I'm only at the lower 7th grade of origin energy. Even if I use the mystic water control flag, I can't break through the yin-yang apricot yellow flag, which is controlled by a 9th grade origin energy cultivator. Your Majesty, please understand. No matter. Immortal Emperor Gochen laughed, as long as you can control the yin-yang apricot yellow flag's defense. Unfortunately, before Immortal Emperor Gochen finished speaking, Xiao Hua also laughed loudly and said, no matter, Xian, go and help His Majesty. Let them fight to the death. This Xiao will send a message to the soaring Dragon Mountain Range, and my Fortune Gate's disciples will all go out to battle. Rather than dying in the mouths of those strange insects, why not exterminate the 4 great clans and the Immortal Palace, and this Xiao will be free in the Cloud Ascension Palace for a few days. Amitabha. The Namo Dipankara Archaic Buddha chanted the Buddha's name and gave up on Baiming Cho Ching. He raised his hands and formed a Buddha seal with his palms. As the Buddha seal flickered, the radiance behind the Dipankara Archaic Buddha's head shone brightly. Layers of Buddha radiance condensed into a stream and fell into the Buddha seal. Gradually, the space around the Buddha seal started distorting and collapsing strangely. Then, strings of golden tattoos gushed out like tadpoles. These golden tattoos transformed into a huge swastika character and slowly rotated in midair. Waves of cryptic fluctuations were emitted from the swastika character and rushed into the surrounding void. Seeing the Dipankara Archaic Buddha's actions, Immortal Emperor Gochen hesitated for a moment. Then, he raised his hand and took out the clear heavenly mirror. He opened his mouth, and a dragon-like Confucian fate entered the clear heavenly mirror. The entire clear heavenly mirror let out a rumbling sound and transformed into a huge door of light. Appear. Immortal Emperor Gochen raised his hand again and slapped the crown on his head. Woo! Amidst the flickering lights, the impure 5-colored true chi rushed into the door of light like a pillar. Then, the entire door of light shone with multicolored radiance. Strange fluctuations were emitted from the void and rushed into the radiance with a roar. Then, scenes of light appeared within the radiance. Xiao Hua knew that the 2 supreme experts were using their abilities to divine the future. He also raised his hand and was about to release the Thunder Nebula. However, his heart skipped a beat, and he stopped. Looking at the trembling void and the intertwining fluctuations, he sighed, sigh. Then, he looked up at the sky again. The phenomenon just now wasn't created out of nothing. If there wasn't any danger of world destruction, why would there be such omens? As expected, after a while, the radiance within the clear heavenly mirror gradually faded, turning into black and white. The swastika symbol in front of the Dipankara archaic Buddha's eyes also slowly withered, turning into grayish-white. Immortal Emperor Go Chen's appearance was hidden behind the golden radiance of the crown, and no one could see it. However, the despair on the Dipankara archaic Buddha's face was obvious. Amitabha, for great families. The Dipankara archaic Buddha's Buddha lotus beneath the Dipankara archaic Buddha's feet was already emitting Buddha radiances. He then said, "The unprecedented calamity of our 3 continents is approaching. No matter if it's the human race, the demon race, or the dragon race, all living in the 3 continents must work together to resist the enemies outside. Today's matter. My Buddhism sect won't pursue it any further. When you return, think about it carefully. Do you want to live in internal strife, or die in the hands of the strange insects outside?" Amitabha, Amitabha. Namo Daji, Manjushri, and the other Buddhas clasped their palms together and chanted Buddha's name. Following the Dipankara archaic Buddha's world exalt, they flew into the sky and disappeared in an instant. Caw. The golden-winged great rock also let out a cry. He flapped his wings and flew into the sky, shouting, "Old man Shiman, consider yourself lucky today. Before the calamity, I won't lower myself to your level. If you can fight against the enemies outside with the help of the human race, I'll treat it as if nothing happened. Otherwise. Hee, don't blame me for luring my 1,000 demons' sacred territories children into the 4 great families." After saying that, the golden-winged great rock flew into the sky. Feng Wu also nodded towards Xiao Hua and followed after him. Seeing Feng Wu leaving, Xiao Hua's heart skipped a beat. He hurriedly sent a voice transmission, "Phoenix Sage, don't we have a teleportation formation under the Black Wind Ridge? Use the teleportation formation to return with the Rock Sage." "All right." Feng Wu replied, "Since you've taken out our Fortune Gate's teleportation formation, I'm afraid the Rock Sage will treat you as his brother in the future." Then, Feng Wu and the golden-winged great rock's figures tilted and landed on the Black Wind Ridge. "Your Majesty." Seeing that the demonic beast race and the Buddhist sect had left, Dongfang Qianghao hurriedly said, "This old subject was foolish and blinded by greed. I actually wanted to scheme against your Majesty." Dongfang Qianghao's expression changed like flipping through a book. Xiao Hua was also dumbfounded. He listened in a daze for the time it took to brew a cup of tea. Dongfang Qianghao's endless confession was like a gem, and every word was brilliant. If he wrote it, it would be even more wonderful than the 4 great clans' declaration of collusion. In the end, Dongfang Qianghao said, "Therefore, this old subject is willing to lead the disciples of the 4 great families and be your Majesty's vanguard. We will kill the strange insects, destroy the enemies outside, and return peace to the 3 continents." After saying that, Dongfang Qianghao knelt in the air and bowed his head to beg for forgiveness. Give it a tip, and thank you for all your support.